Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's awesome to have you guys here joining me today. I am flying solo today because Ray got COVID. I have tested today. Thankfully, I'm clean, but I told Jonathan and Paris to both stay home, get tested today, let me disinfect the office and all that kind of stuff. So I'm flying solo today. Ray, and by the way, Ray's feeling good. He's just feeling congested and everything, but obviously I had him stay home. So I'm going to be doing it all intimate-like, as you get all up in my jazz, as I will be here with you, talking about all the stuff we're going to talk about here today. So welcome, everybody. Glad to have you guys here. And I'm going to let you know the show is going to be broken into two parts as normal. In the first part of the show, we're going to be talking about some predetermined topics that we got listed off. In the second part of the show, I'm going to be taking your live comments and questions. Now, if you have a thought, comment, question, observation that you'd like me to address on the show, as long as it's appropriate for me to address on the show. By the way, guys, whole bunch of you guys have sent in questions on the tip link that have blatant, obvious, big Deadpool spoilers in it. Clearly, those are not appropriate. And I know you meant well, but we're not going to be reading those questions today. But if you do have an appropriate question to ask today, go ahead and use the tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Now, here's the good news about this tip link. If you're one of the many people who watches this show after it's been done live, you can send in a question too, because the tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Send on in your question wherever you like, and we'll get around to it, provided it's appropriate, on our next episode. All right. With that down, guys, let's get into it and start off with this. With Deadpool and Wolverine out right now, the 6th largest opening weekend in box office history, by miles the biggest opening weekend for an R-rated film in history, and clearly on its way to joining the $1 billion club. It got me thinking when I was doing the open spoiler discussion for Deadpool and Wolverine about, we've never done like a top 10 list of what I think are the 10 best Ryan Reynolds films. And Ryan Reynolds is one of my top 1, top 2 favorite movie stars. Doesn't hurt that he's a good Canadian kid. That goes a long way with me. So I thought we would take a little bit of time here with Deadpool and Wolverine being out there, that we would talk about what I believe are the other, including the Deadpool films, but the other great films I think Ryan Reynolds has been one of the stars of. So let's get things going here, shall we? We're going to start off at number 10. And now remember, we're talking about films he's been the star of, not made a quick cameo in or a small little role or something, but like one of the significant stars. So, starting off at number 10. This, a lot of people disagree with this, and I don't care because I thought this was a really nice, special little movie, If. I liked If an awful lot. Now, do I think it's like a top 10 best film of the year? No, I don't think it's top 10, but it's genuine, it's heartfelt. It had me going through a whole bunch of range of emotions through it. It was charming. It was cute. I just really enjoyed the film. I don't think it's a top 5 best Ryan Reynolds film, but I definitely think it has a place for it being in the top 10. So for me, at number 10 on the top 10 Ryan Reynolds list, I've got If. At number 9 is a movie that is much better than it has any business being, and I quite honestly thought it was going to be terrible, and I didn't even think it looked all that good. The Adam Project. Listen, Ryan Reynolds, I love Ryan. He doesn't have the best direct-to-Netflix record, all right? Not the best direct-to-Netflix record. Red Notice, 6 Underground, So when The Adam Project was coming out, I honestly did not have high expectations, despite the fact that it's got my all-time number 1 celebrity crush, Jennifer Garner, in it. I didn't think it looked that good, but it was fun. The action was good. It had a nice little mythology to it. It handled time travel better than most time travel movies do. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So The Adam Project takes number 9 on my spot. All right. At number 8, And I can't believe I have it this low on my list because I love this movie. Just Friends. This is not one of Ryan Reynolds' more popular films, but this is one of his funniest movies. And I know a lot of you probably haven't seen Just Friends. This movie, it's got Amy Smart in it. I love Amy Smart. But this movie is ridiculously funny. And it breaks some of the traditional rom-com tropes in it. It certainly embraces some of the traditional rom-com tropes, but it breaks a lot of them too. It is absolutely hilarious from beginning to end. I think Anna Paquin is, not Anna Paquin, Chris Pratt's ex-wife, Anna Faris, that's it. Anna Faris is in it. It's just wonderful. Again, I can't believe I have it all the way down at number 8. I can't believe I've got it this low on my list, but I do. So at number 8, I have Just Friends. All right. At number 7 on my list of my top 10 Ryan Reynolds films, Deadpool 2. I mean, when they did, obviously when the first Deadpool came out, blew everybody away, destroyed everybody's expectations, way better than anybody thought it could be, and blah, 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 blah. The question then became, everybody was looking forward to a Deadpool 2, but could they actually follow it up, or would Deadpool just be a one-trick pony? You know, would it just be like, okay, you had the one good one, but the novelty's worn off, blah, blah, blah. Then Deadpool 2 comes out, proves that it wasn't. That the first Deadpool wasn't a fluke, that it wasn't a one-trick pony. Now, I don't think Deadpool 2 is as good as the first one, no, but yeah, I still laughed my guts out through it. The action was great. I love the Juggernaut and Colossus fight. I seriously, that is a top 10 favorite fight of mine in comic book movies. Not everybody loves that fight. I love the Juggernaut Colossus fight in it. Josh Brolin was great as Cable. Zazie Beetz as Domino. I really loved it. So Deadpool 2 comes in at number 7 for me. All right. Now we go up to number 6. At number 6, Free Guy. This was... Okay, when I saw the marketing for Free Guy, I thought this looks good. This looks good. It looks like fun. But at the same time, while I thought it looked good, and certainly the trailers made me funny, and I thought it looked creative, I was expecting to go into enjoying it, but I thought it was going to be, hey, a quick little fun movie, but then becomes pretty forgettable, right? And which is perfectly good. It's great to have movies like that. Movies that just deliver, you know, you watch it, you have a good time watching it, but they don't stick with you later on, and that's fine. That's what I thought with Free Guy. But I loved this movie. It had been a while since a movie had surprised me as much as Free Guy did. Like, I was not expecting to enjoy it nearly as much as I did. Oh my God, the Channing Tatum role in it is so good. Anne and I ended up, I think we went to go see it 3 or 4 times in the first week that it came out. Like, I like this movie so much, and I gushed about it so much because we saw it like 3 times in the first 3 days that it was out, that somebody involved with the film actually emailed me and said, hey, because for those of you who don't know, I'm actually an accredited Rotten Tomatoes critic, but I maybe put up 1 review on it a year at any rate. So somebody connected with Free Guy emailed me and said, hey, I noticed you haven't put up your review on Rotten Tomatoes of Free Guy. We could certainly use the help. Would you mind, since you did enjoy it and since you say you loved it so much, would you put it up? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do. Even though I only do it like once a year, I'm like, yeah, for Free Guy, I will do it. Free Guy comes in at number 6 on my list. I absolutely love it. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. All right. At number 5, now we're getting into the top 5. At number 5 on my list, Definitely Maybe. Listen. Ryan Reynolds was already a name when Definitely Maybe came out. He was already a name. Like, he was recognizable. He was getting work. Ryan Reynolds is a movie star. Yeah. But Definitely Maybe, and this is up for debate, but to me, Definitely Maybe was the movie that established Ryan Reynolds as a star. Ryan Reynolds is a star. He's in this movie where he's starring opposite Elizabeth Banks, Isla Fisher, Rachel Weisz, and he legitimately, even though he's on the screen with that amount of pure acting power. And by the way, Abigail Breslin in it was wonderful as his daughter. He was able to be on the screen with that amount of firepower, and he was the definitive lead of the film, and he was marvelous. It's a funny movie, definitely, maybe. I think there's probably a bunch of you that haven't seen it yet, but it's also a very tender movie. It's a very thought-provoking movie. It's funny, yes, but it's a very special film. And again, to me, it's the movie that kind of, Ryan Reynolds is already kind of being seen as a movie star, but this is the one that cemented it. And definitely, maybe you got to watch it. It's one of the Ryan Reynolds must-watch films. Definitely, maybe comes in at number 5. All right. We now move on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got The Proposal. This movie, to this day, Ann and I will quote The Proposal back and forth to each other. And we watch this movie about once a year. We watch it about once a year, and it never loses any of its potency. It's just an absolutely marvelous, holds up, fantastic movie. Now, of course, I have a little bit of bias because while Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, he doesn't play the Canadian in it. She does. She plays the Canadian in it. But again, it's very much your formulaic rom-com. It is. But sometimes being a formulaic rom-com can be elevated. And this is it. This is one of his best movies. And I absolutely love it. So for me, The Proposal comes in at number 4. All right. We now move on to number 3. And at number 3, I've got his newest one, Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, I've seen the film now 3 times, getting ready to go see it for our 4th. Ann and I we've made the decision that we're going to make this movie the one that breaks our record. The movie that holds the record for Ann and I together, going to see it in theaters, was the first Thor movie directed by Kenneth Branagh. We saw that in theater 8 times. I think we are going to see this 9. I think that's the plan. The plan is for us to go see 9. And yeah, listen, we've been talking about Deadpool and Wolverine ad nauseum over the last number of weeks and months. We just did our big full open spoiler discussion. We talked about its box office success yesterday. I don't need to say much more about it now, except that I truly love it. I think it's just a fabulous film. I have it as Ryan Reynolds' number 3 best film. All right. Next up, at number 2, we've got Buried. The number 2 on the list, and I think the number 1, the best performance Ryan Reynolds has ever given. I think it's the number 2 best movie he's done, but I think it's the number 1 best performance he's ever. In all sincerity, I 100% thought he should have been nominated for Best Actor for this. I really, no hyperbole, nothing. He absolutely should have been nominated for Best Actor for this movie. For those of you who don't know much about Buried, and I know many of you have not watched it, the whole movie, the entire movie, takes place in a box, buried 6 feet underground. And Ryan Reynolds wakes up in this box, has no idea how he got there, and all he has is a cell phone and a lighter. And the whole movie takes place in that box as he tries to figure out how he got there and how on earth he's going to get out. And the whole movie takes place in there. And so the whole movie is completely dependent on Reynolds' performance. The whole thing, because when you're in just one little location in the box, it's not going to be carried by visual effects. It's not going to be carried by action. It's not going to be carried by anything else. The whole movie is totally on the shoulders of Ryan Reynolds' performance. And I think it's the best performance he's ever given. I love it. So yes, Buried is my number 2 Ryan Reynolds film. And at number 1, should come as no surprise to people, I think the best Ryan Reynolds film is the original Deadpool. People have been asking me, because I love Deadpool and Wolverine so much, like, which one do you like more? Do you like Deadpool 3 more or Deadpool 1? And the way I kind of define it right now, and I need to sit and marinate on it for a while, but the way I define it right now is that I think Deadpool and Wolverine is the funnier of the two movies, but the first Deadpool as a complete package, I think just ever so slightly nudges it out. And so for that reason, for me, and Deadpool, the movie that got it all started, the first Deadpool is the one for me that I think is his best film. So just to go over it again, my top 10 Ryan Reynolds films are: number 10, If; number 9, The Atom Project; number 8, Just Friends; number 7, Deadpool 2; number 6, Free Guy; number 5, Definitely Maybe; number 4, The Proposal; number 3, Deadpool and Wolverine; number 2, the movie he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for, Buried; and my number 1 is Deadpool. Now, I've seen a number of other titles, people dropping in there. What about Van Wilder? I like Van Wilder, right? I did. I like Van Wilder, but not more than the 10 that I had on my list. Green Lantern, by the way, I didn't viscerally hate his Green Lantern movie. I didn't think it was good, but I didn't viscerally hate it. I don't mind his Green Lantern movie the way a lot of people, but obviously not in it. Hitman's Bodyguard. I like Hitman's Bodyguard, but not enough to make it on my list. Hobbs and Shaw, he wasn't he wasn't one of the main stars of the film, so Hobbs and Shaw doesn't thing. Obviously, R.I.P.D. doesn't be on there. Hanny Mehdi is saying Spirited. I like Spirited, and I came close to giving Spirited the number 10 spot, but I preferred If a little bit more, so I gave that to it. Waiting is a bit of a classic. I really like Waiting. It doesn't age so well, but I like Waiting a lot, but still not on my list. Obviously not Amityville Horror, his reboot of it. Life, no, didn't put that up. The Change Up is a movie I really like. He did that with Jason Bateman, right? It was him and Jason Bateman. I actually really like that, but not quite enough to crack my top 10. So anyway, and Safe House, the one he did with Denzel Washington, another movie of his that I like, but not enough to make it on my top 10. So the question is for you guys, what do you think about this? That's my little top 10 list for Ryan Reynolds films. What would your top 10 list for Ryan Reynolds films look like? Did I leave something off? Is there something I have on there that you think has no place being on there? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Don't know if any of you guys know this, but there's a new Gladiator movie coming. Gladiator 2. Now, of course, they've been talking about doing a Gladiator 2 for years. Originally, do you guys remember this? Originally, when they announced that they were going to be doing a Gladiator 2, the idea behind the story was that the gods decided to send Maximus back to Earth. Well, that clearly didn't go over well. And they pulled the plug on that idea. And now we've got Paul Mescal, who's playing the role of Lucius, who is the little boy in the first Gladiator, now all grown up and a gladiator himself. Well, movie's coming out now. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't loved the marketing for Gladiator yet. I didn't mind the newest trailer. The newest trailer wasn't bad. The CinemaCon presentation they showed to us didn't wow me or anything like that. But still, a lot of people are clearly very, very interested in this film. Well, here's an interesting little thing. Ridley Scott, who has done some massive action set pieces in his day, is now saying that this movie, Gladiator 2, Ridley Scott says has the biggest action sequence he's ever done. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety who write the following. Scott is saying, "We begin the film with probably the biggest action sequence I've ever done," Scott told Empire in a recent interview, "probably bigger than anything in Napoleon." Now, here's the thing. I did not like Napoleon. I was extremely excited for Napoleon. I thought it looked great. It's got Joaquin Phoenix in it. Frankly, I thought the movie was terrible. I really didn't enjoy it at all. But they have an action sequence in it. I can't remember what the name of the battle is. The one where they lure the opposing armies onto the ice and then they start butchering everybody and drowning them in the icy water. Anyway, that action sequence was phenomenal and it was huge. It was really a big, big sequence. For him to say that we start this movie with the biggest sequence, according to him, that he has ever done is pretty impressive. Now, if you guys remember back in the first Gladiator film, which is one of the all-time great movies, that first Gladiator film did the same thing. It started with a big action sequence. Remember the Battle of Germania? When the one Roman guy says to Maximus, people should know when they're conquered. And Maximus says, would you? Would I? If anybody in the live chat remembers that character's name, it's not Crixus. I'm trying to remember the name. But he says, yeah, there's Quintus. Thank you. Affair is the one who comes in the clutch. Quintus. So Quintus says, people should know when they're conquered. And he says, would you, Quintus? Would I? And then that huge battle ensues, right? The huge battle ensues, which was a great way to start that movie. So I think it's pretty appropriate that Ridley Scott is saying, I am starting this new Gladiator movie kind of in the same vein, but it's going to be the biggest one I've ever seen. Now, look, there's a lot of reasons to be excited for Gladiator 2, right? I mean, you got Denzel Washington in there, one of the greatest actors of all time. You got maybe the hottest actor, two of the hottest actors in the world right now, in Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn being in the film. Also, you've got returning from the original Gladiator, you got Connie Nielsen reprising her role as Lucius's mother and former lover of Maximus. And by the way, there's still fan theories out there that Maximus is actually Lucius's father. So I don't know if they're going to reveal that in the movie or if they're just going to say that's not the case. Anyway, there are fan whispers around Gladiator about that forever. So there's actually a number of things to look forward to. And I think Paul Mescal is a terrific actor. So I may not have been totally enamored yet with the marketing we've seen from it, maybe even let down a little bit. And I don't think, I hate saying it, I don't think Ridley Scott has it anymore. I mean, his last bunch of films, I thought Napoleon was terrible. I thought The Last Duel was mediocre. I thought House of Gucci was okay. I mean, the last really good film he's done was The Martian, and that was ages ago. And then it was like 10 years before that he made another good film. So I don't know if I have all the faith in the world in Ridley Scott right now, but I'm hoping this is awesome. I love the original Gladiator, and I'm going to be cheering for it. So we'll see how it turns out. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Ridley Scott is saying that this movie is going to open up with what he calls the biggest action sequence he has ever done. And you're talking about the guy who made Napoleon and the guy who made the first Gladiator. He's made some big action sequences. Are you looking forward to this movie? I mean, I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I'm still very, very interested in seeing it. How are you guys feeling about it? Whatever you think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, it's only July. So it's a long ways to the next Oscars, but the Oscars is a big show. So the people running it are already starting to make their plans. And one of the things that they decided to do was to start their search for a host early. Now, of course, this past year, Jimmy Kimmel hosted the Oscars. And you know what? Listen, I'm the type of guy, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But I'm just the type of guy that, I don't know, I think a movie star should host the biggest night of the movies. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But I just would prefer to see a movie star host the biggest night of the movies. Now that being said, Kimmel did a very good job last year. I got to hand it to him. I give credit where it's due. He did a very, very good job with the awards last year. I mean, he kept the show moving, all that kind of stuff. He did a good job. I got to give him his props. The ratings were the highest that they had been in 5 years. So the highest ratings that the Oscars had in 5 years. It was a very good, very well run show. So it was great. It was well done. Not the best Oscars, not in the top 10 of the best Oscars, but it was definitely firing on all cylinders. It did well. Now, here's the thing. The other day, this kind of came up on the John Campea Show. We were talking about potential Oscar hosts. And I said this. I said, I believe, for those of you guys who watch the show, you'll remember me saying this. I said, I believe they're going to have a very, very hard time finding a host for the Oscars because I don't think anybody's going to want to do it because it's become a new fun game for everybody that once somebody gets chosen to be the host of the Oscars, everybody starts hunting for things to attack them with. I mean, look what happened with Kevin Hart, right? They selected Kevin Hart to be a host of the Oscars. Instantly, the world went into overdrive, digging through decades of social media posts from Kevin Hart, trying to find whatever they could, attacked him. Eventually, he backed out of it. He pulled out. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse every year. So I said the other day that I think the Oscars are absolutely going to have a very hard time finding a host because I don't know anybody that's going to want to do it. I don't know anybody that's going to want to do it. Because the moment you say yes, the world takes that as a challenge to dig up any dirt they can on you and to attack you with whatever they want to attack you with. And it's just not kind of worth it. Well, with that being said, late last night, news came out that they have already offered the hosting job to a couple people and they've already turned it down. This comes to us from Variety. It says this, Jimmy Kimmel and John Mulaney, by the way, I love John Mulaney, have both passed on the job of hosting the next Oscars on March 2nd, Variety has confirmed. Kimmel, a 4-time Oscar host, reportedly turned down the gig earlier this summer. Mulaney, whose presenting routine was one of the highlights of this year's show, and by the way, his whole routine about if you build it, they will come, like the whole thing about that, Field of Dreams, his whole spiel on that was one of the highlights of the show. Anyway, Mulaney, whose presenting routine was one of the highlights of this year's show and who also hosted the Governor's Awards, has a busy schedule with several projects coming up. His talk show, Everybody's in LA, could also get renewed by Netflix, according to Puck, which first reported the news. Now, here's the thing. Let me throw this out here first, all right? That's all bullshit. Oh, no, John Mulaney's very busy. Bullshit. He is busy. But we're not talking about him starring in a new TV show that will take up 4 months of him filming. We're not talking about him turning down a role in a new movie that'll take 2 to 3 months of him being on set shooting. We're talking about hosting the Oscars one night. Oh, no, very busy. Let me look at my calendar. Yes, March 2nd of 2025. Oh, I'm busy that Sunday night. No, that's bullshit. What this is a very diplomatic way of saying, no, I'm not going to do it. No way. We've seen what you've done to other hosts, and we're not going to do it. It ain't going to happen. And it's really, I got to say, unfortunate. Not that I'm dying to have John Mulaney host the Oscars, although I think he would be a very good I think Mulaney would do a very good job. And not that I'm dying to have Jimmy Kimmel come back again, although again, props to him. I think he did a very good job last year. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're eventually going to get a host. I don't know, maybe it'll be Joe Coy. Because that worked out so well for the Golden Globes. Joe, if you're watching, I love Joe Coy, but that didn't work out so well. They'll eventually land on somebody, but we're ultimately going to find out that whoever it is they end on, it's going to be like, we're going to find out it was literally the 10th, 11th, 12th, or 13th pick. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. Now, I've seen a lot of people in the live chat, and I've had people say this to me before, and I'm all for it. They said, John, there's only one answer to who should host the Oscars this year. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. To which I would say, hell yes. I would love. I mean, Hugh Jackman did a very good job hosting the Oscars the one year he did it. He's a big song and dance man. And to have him and Hugh up there with their comedic timing together, or him and Ryan up there with their comedic timing together, it would be gold. Two legitimate movie stars hosting the biggest night of the movies, the stars of probably what's going to be the biggest film of the year or the second biggest film of the year, one of the two. I mean, it's just poetic. It's romantic. It's perfect. Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds should be hosting the Oscars. Here's the problem, though. They ain't going to do it. There's no way Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman will host the Oscars today. There's no way they're going to do it. They're going to say thank you, but no thank you, for the same reasons Jimmy Kimmel's already turned it down, for the same reasons that John Mulaney's already turned it down. They're like, you know what? We're flying high right now. We don't want to paint a target on us, because that's what the public does. When you become the host of the Oscars, the public sees you as voluntarily putting a target on your chest, and we don't want to do it. So I don't know what they're going to do for getting a host, but it's not going to be an A-lister. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll knock it out of the park and we'll get somebody we'll be very excited about, but I'm having my doubts right now, to be honest with you. And with Kimmel turning it down, Mulaney turning it down, I think, again, my friends, it is just the beginning. I think it's just the beginning. We're going to hear about a lot of people turning stuff down, so there's that. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Are you surprised that Jimmy Kimmel and John Mulaney have turned it down? Maybe you think, nah, John, a lot of people would love to host the Oscars. They're going to line up. Or maybe you agree with me that, you know what? Yeah, they're going to have a hard time finding people. Oh, somebody just said Key and Peele. Oh, I would love Key and Peele to host the Oscars. They'll never do it. I think they're going to have a hard time finding people to do it, but who knows? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Some of you may remember that this weekend, don't know if you've heard about this or not, but a little announcement was made at Comic-Con on Saturday night at the Marvel Hall H panel. Now, of course, one of the big pieces of news that Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, the directors of Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, are back and will be directing Avengers 5 and 6. And for those of you who missed out on it, one of their main writers, McFeely, is back, and he's going to be writing those films. So, I mean, the gang's all back to Kevin Feige with the Russos, with McFeely, are making Avengers 5 and 6. Everybody's excited. But then the big showstopper news came. Robert Downey Jr., as I have said for years, returns to the MCU, but returning as Dr. Doom. New mask, same task. What's that task? I think it's to build a suit of armor around the world, but for very different reasons. So anyway, that's come out. Now, we all knew that with Robert Downey Jr. coming back, under normal circumstances, it was going to cost a lot of money for them to get him back. Well, the difference now is Robert Downey Jr. has an Oscar. Robert Downey Jr. now's got a shiny Oscar sitting on his desk. So you knew the price tag was going to be hefty. But it's more than hefty. Let's go over to CBR, who writes the following. According to the source, getting the old gang back together has been a costly endeavor. The Russo brothers will earn $80 million for their work on the upcoming Avengers blockbusters. That's $40 million each film. While Downey will take home quote unquote, significantly more. Now, it's not just that. They said in another paragraph, they wrote this. Joe and Anthony Russo were the only ones that Robert Downey Jr. said he would do it. That was his condition, that I would want to work with the Russo brothers again, and the Russo brothers wanted to work with him, so that was no problem. Made that happen. A source familiar with the deal told Variety while discussing the negotiations for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now here's the thing. This is the other thing that Robert Downey Jr. wants. The Academy Award-winning actor also requested his own private jet for travel while filming, a dedicated security team, which is actually not unreasonable for a guy of his stature right now, and an entire trailer encampment, which honestly is, that costs peanuts. That doesn't really mean anything. Actors don't usually get it, but that's fine. And by the way, he's not getting a private jet like they're going to give him a private jet. What they're going to do is they're going to have a private jet at his disposal for flying during travel. So he's going to get a lot. But what exactly does significantly more mean? Now, Robert Downey Jr. previously pulled in one of the highest paychecks in cinematic history in making $75 million on one film with Marvel. He did it on a couple of them. So before I tell you what I'm going to tell you next, let me be very, very clear. There's a reason I haven't put this in the title of it or anything like that, because I'm about to tell you something that I've been told that I cannot independently verify. Okay? Are we clear on this? I'm about to share with you, because we're just talking. I'm a pundit. I'm not a journalist. All right? I'm about to share something with you that I have heard, but I cannot independently verify it. Maybe what I'm about to say will get out there and somebody else will be able to verify. But I am not independently verifying this. I'm just telling you what I was told, okay? Could be right, could be wrong. Are we clear on this? Have I put a big enough asterisk on this? Okay. What I have been told is that RDJ is going to get a slightly bigger base salary than he got in the other films, which is not saying a lot because he didn't have that big of a base salary. Where Robert Downey Jr.'s most of his money came on the other films was in the back end points. Okay. So he got a certain percentage of whatever the movie's made, and that's how his paycheck got up to like $75 million. What I have been told, again, that I cannot independently verify, is that it will be a slightly larger base salary with a point. How do I put this? Well, getting points on the films that will be significant and will cap out at $100 million per film. To put that into perspective, all right? To put that in perspective, that would mean that would tie the all-time biggest paychecks for one actor getting in a movie ever. Currently, the record holders are tied $100 million for a film. Tom Cruise for Top Gun Maverick, he ended up with $100 million. And Will Smith for Men in Black 3. That's really for Men in Black 3. Yep. For Men in Black 3, but that's just how it worked out. So the current title holders for the biggest paychecks ever in a movie. Remember, we're in an industry where most big major stars will make between $10 and $20 million. All right? Big major A-list superstars will make between $10 and $20 million. Tom Cruise and Will Smith each got $100 million at the end of the day for Top Gun Maverick and for Men in Black 3. If what I'm being told is true, and that's a major if, Robert Downey Jr. will join those ranks, except it won't just be for one movie, it'll be for two. He could walk away from these two movies with $200 million. $200 million. And Amin is saying, this is why we have the actor strike. Here's the thing, because he's getting all this money, a lot of the next level down actors are going to make a lot less in these movies because they got to pay Robert Downey Jr. Anyway, I'm not here to deny Robert getting whatever money that he's going to get for these movies, and it's going to be a lot. Because listen, when he pulled off that mask, all right, when he pulled off that mask in that Comic-Con panel, we pulled off the Doom mask and it was him. I can't remember the last time we heard a bigger pop in Hall H at Comic-Con. I keep wanting to say CinemaCon. At Comic-Con in years. Biggest pop I've heard in there in years. It absolutely nuts. Absolutely crazy. People are going nuts for this. Now, I understand there are some people out there who don't like the idea. I'm telling you right now, this is a stroke of genius. This is a stroke of genius on their part. This is going to be huge. I've been saying that. Look, I've said this before. You've heard me say it a dozen times. You'll hear me say it a dozen times again. If Kevin Feige had called me and asked me, do you think we should make Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom? I would say, no, I don't think a Tony Stark variant should be Victor Von Doom in another universe. I think you should go more traditional. That's what I would do, okay? That's what I would do. But I'm open-minded enough that I recognize that even though this is not something that I would do, this is genius. I think the whole notion of the face of the world's greatest hero becoming the world's greatest threat is loaded with potential. And in the hands of McFeely, the Russo brothers, and Kevin Feige, and again, when that combination of people have worked together before, the results have been Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. That's what the results of that have been. So I think they know what they're doing. Now, I know a lot of people are particularly like hardcore comic book fans. And by the way, 95% of the average movie-going audience have no idea that Dr. Doom's name is Victor Von Doom. 95% of the average movie-going audience doesn't know, so they don't care. 95% of the average movie-going audience does not care. That's just a fact, all right? You can care, I can care, but 95% of the movie-going audience doesn't care because they just don't know. And so there are people who want to know, well, we want a more traditional, kind of Dr. Doom. Well, here's the thing. They've done more or less, to a degree, they've done the traditional Dr. Doom 5 times already. 3 times they did it in the Chris Evans ones. 1 time they did it in the Michael B. Jordan one. 1 time they did it in the Roger Corman one. Maybe you shouldn't even count that one, but I will for the sake of this discussion. But they've done the traditional Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom 5 times already, and it's never worked. That doesn't mean they shouldn't try it again. That doesn't mean they shouldn't try it again. I'm sorry, 4 times. That's not saying that they shouldn't try it again, but it means, hey guys, they've tried it a number of times already. They tried it a few times with Chris Evans. They tried it with Michael B. Jordan. Corman tried it once. They've done it and it's never worked. So why not try something different? Seriously, why not try something different? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and just expecting different things. Again, I'm not saying that because Dr. Doom has never worked before, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I'm not saying that this would even be my first choice. But everybody's acting like, oh my God, they got Robert Downey Jr. being Dr. Doom. This could never possibly work. They should do it the way it's done before. Well, they've done it a certain way before and it's never worked. So maybe it's worth a shot trying something different. Heavens forbid. and something different that I think is going to be emotionally resonant with the audience if they do it well. Now listen, this may be a disaster, right? This might totally blow up in their faces. Absolutely. But guess what? Even if they went the traditional route with a traditional Victor Von Doom, it could still go bad and it could still blow up in their faces. It could be awesome and it could be terrible. This could be awesome and this could be terrible. Absolutely. But you tried it the other way so many times already. It doesn't mean you can't try it again, but why not? Do something a little bit different, because the MCU is not the comic books. Right? The MCU is not the comic books. It's its own thing. The MCU has never directly followed the comic books. Age of Ultron, totally different from the Age of Ultron comic series. Civil War, completely different from the Civil War comic story run. And on and on and on, right? The MCU has never directly followed the comic stories. They've always taken liberties, always done their own thing, always taken inspiration and taken the blueprint from the comic stories, but then made it their own thing because it's a different medium, right? Them doing this with Robert Downey Jr. is no different. It's just going to cost them. It's just going to cost them because the Russo brothers are getting $40 million each per film. And from what my understanding is, and again, it could be wrong. I can't independently verify it. And I've only heard it from one source. I didn't hear it from multiple sources. So it could be wrong, but I'll be curious to find out if other people verify this or not. From what I understand, Robert Downey Jr. is going to get $100 million a film. And you know what? If it all works, it'll be well worth it. There is more excitement today for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its future than there was 2 weeks ago. There's no denying. They've had a couple of big things, right? They got Deadpool and Wolverine is a massive smash hit. Everybody loves it. They had a big pop at Hall H. Everybody's excited about what was done. Huge celebratory pop that came out of there from the fans. I'm very quickly, the perception has changed. Now, I'm not saying it's justified, but I'm saying the perception has changed. You can still have your doubts. I can still have my doubts. But the reality is the perception has changed than what it was like even a week and a half ago. There's some excitement around there. And I think a lot of it has to do with this announcement of the Russos returning, of Robert Downey Jr. returning as Dr. Doom. Might be great, might be the best thing they've ever done, might blow up in their faces. We'll have to see, but that's a hell of a lot of money. That is a hell of a lot of money. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to the reports, Robert Downey Jr. is getting tons of money. The Russo brothers are getting tons of money, and they are really going all in on these next two Avengers films, Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars. Hopefully for me, it'll wrap up the whole multiverse nonsense, but we'll have to see. Is it a good move? Is it a bad move? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Hungryroot. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Hungryroot. Guys, you know me, I like things that make my life easier, especially things that make it easier for me to eat healthy and eat well, and certainly more effectively than trying to order from food delivery services. Hungryroot is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't even have to think about it. Hungryroot gets to know your personal health goals, dietary restrictions, favorite foods, how much time you want to spend cooking, and more. Then, they build you a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week, including easy 4-ingredient recipes to put those groceries to use. Each order is fully customizable so you can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat and seafood, healthy snacks, smoothies, sweets, ready-to-eat meals, kids snacks and meals, vitamins and supplements, and much more. Everything from Hungryroot follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Right now, Hungryroot is offering the John Campea Show listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/Campea to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/Campea. Don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you. And thank you to our friends at Hungryroot for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that all down, let's now move on to your questions that you guys sent in. Now, I want to repeat something that I said at the beginning of the show. As we always say with the tippling questions, we reserve the right to not read questions that we deem to be inappropriate. Now, a lot of you guys, totally well-meaning, totally didn't mean anything by it, I understand, but a number of you guys have been sending in comments and questions that are huge and blatant Deadpool and Wolverine spoilers for a movie that's been out for 5 days. Clearly, we are not going to read those questions. And even though I know you meant well, come on, guys, you should know better. But so just so you know, if you are somebody who sent in a question and hey, John, what did you think about that scene in Deadpool and Wolverine where blah, 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 and so, blah, 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 licking the blah, 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 smacking blah, and doing blah? I obviously cannot read those questions, guys. So there's that. So with that said, though, we do got a bunch of questions to get to. So let's get things going here. We're going to start off with, who are we starting off with? We're starting off with Sam Fisher, who writes, while it's not as badass as Doomsday, I do think the title First Steps works for the movie. We're talking about Fantastic Four, about heroes who are literal astronauts. Look, I'm looking forward to this movie. I am. I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four. I don't know that it's going to be huge because I don't know that the audience is completely on board with Fantastic Four. There's a lot of negative baggage that's coming along with it, with all the failed movies that have come before it. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I do not like the title First Steps. Now, at the end of the day, a title doesn't matter. A title is literally just a marketing tool. That's all a title is. The title does not make the movie any better, and it doesn't make it any worse. I'm just saying, for me, I don't necessarily think the title First Steps is very good. All right. Logan Vaughn writes, this was the best Deadpool movie. It was made just for me. I giggled the entire time. Not MCU's single best movie, but it's one of my favorite entries. The humor, action, and drama worked flawlessly, and I'm going 9 out of 10 and the MCU's best movie since Endgame. First of all, I'm glad you loved it, Logan. I loved it too. But I am going to have to reserve my whole overall feelings. I'm going to have to reserve my overall feelings about the movie for a couple of months because I need to marinate on it, right? But I definitely think it is one of the best movies they've done since Endgame. I mean, it's up there with No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Some people forget, as critical as I have been, and I admit I've been very critical of Marvel the last couple of years, but as critical as I've been, you can't forget that they've had some massive, massive wins. Like I said, Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Spider-Man No Way Home, and so on and so forth. So I think it ranks right up there. Where exactly? I'm going to need a little bit more time to think about it. Okay, next up, we got Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, hey, John and crew. Have you seen the episode of Hot Ones with Hugh and Ryan? Jackman was getting wrecked by the hotter sauces. Awesome interview questions. A must watch. You know what? I am often really impressed by how good Sean, who's the host of Hot Ones, how good of an interviewer he is. He's a very good interviewer. It's not just the gimmick of eating hot wings. He's a very good interviewer. And yes, that whole interview, if you haven't seen the Hot Ones with Ryan Jackson, with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, it's pretty hilarious. It's really funny and actually really insightful too. So go check it out if you get a chance. All right. Next up, Amin writes, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. RDJ is going to end up doing both. With that said, I fully trust Feige and the Russos, and I'm so happy McFeely is returning to write the script. That's real news in my opinion. I 100% agree. Now listen, I was excited about the idea that we were getting the the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige working together again, right? To me, that's awesome. And I've said before that, while I haven't been enamored with the movies that the Russo brothers have made in the last couple of years as directors or producers, and everybody then wants to bring up Everything Everywhere All at Once. Guys, listen to me. The Russo brothers had absolutely nothing to do with Everything Everywhere All at Once. They got a credit, but they had absolutely nothing to do with that movie. And I love Joe and Anthony. I love the Russos. I'm hugely biased for those guys. But just be clear, they had nothing to do with that movie. So I haven't really been super thrilled with a lot of the stuff they've put out as directors and producers. And Marvel has had some terrific, awesome stuff, but they have also struggled a little bit more than they have normally. But as I've pointed out, when the two of them work together, it's been magic. The one thing I've always left out of that equation, and that's on me, that's my fault, has been the McFeely aspect, right? And he had a writing partner as well. But I mean, McFeely there too. And knowing that McFeely is coming back to write, guys, you now got the whole band back together. The team literally responsible for Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. And I completely trust whatever they're going to bring to us here. All right. Next up. Let's see here. That was the wrong one. There we go. David writes, "Hey, John and crew, what are movies that have come out in the 2020s that, let me see if I can just adjust this a little bit. There we go. What are the movies that have come out in the 2020s that you think will be considered classics years from now?" I have no idea. A few that come to mind are Dune 1 and 2. I completely agree. Oppenheimer. I agree. Top Gun 2. I love that movie, but I'm not sure I agree. And Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if enough people have seen Everything Everywhere All at Once for it to be considered a big classic years from now. And that's criminal. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a brilliant movie, but I don't know that it's going to be one that we're talking about 10 years from now because I don't think people have watched it. Now, as far as me naming other ones, I can't, because that's the type of question that I need to sit down and actually think about it, and I don't have that off the top of my head. But I absolutely agree with you about Dune 1 and 2, and I absolutely agree with you about Oppenheimer. I'm not so sure about Top Gun Maverick. It's a great movie. I love it, but I don't know that's going to be talked about 10 years from now. But yeah, those are some good ones on your list, but I don't, unfortunately, think Everything Everywhere All at Once. All right. Next up, we've got Suthius, who writes, "So we've got 2 Avengers movies coming very shortly in 2026 and 2027, but we still have so many dangling threads. Eternal, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, The Younger Heroes, Echo, and Moon Knight. Do you think that Secret Wars ends the multiverse?" Yes, I do. Now, I'm saying yes, but I also initially thought before they announced the multiverse, I thought Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was going to be the movie they used to end the multiverse. Little did I know it was the movie that they were just getting things started with. I still remember being at CinemaCon and they were getting ready to show us some footage of the upcoming Doctor Strange 2, and Kevin Feige going, "As we really get rolling in the multiverse saga." And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be good. Anyway. So I thought they were going to end it with Doctor Strange 2. Clearly I was wrong, right? Obviously hugely wrong about that. That being said, I do still think that Secret Wars, because if you know the story of Secret Wars, I do believe they're going to wrap up and end the multiverse stuff in Secret Wars. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. All right, Jason writes, "1 of 3. Hey, John, did you see Ryan and Hugh on the latest episode of Hot Ones? We talked about that. In the episode, Ryan said that his original idea, oh yes, about the fake movie, his original idea for Deadpool 3 was to promote it as a fake movie called Alpha Dog. And that was so bad that no one would want to see it. And then minutes into the movie, the Marvel intro would start to roll and would actually be the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And only those that went to go see the bad movie would get the privilege of seeing Deadpool and Wolverine first. He decided not to do this because he was afraid it would get leaked before it came out and would have spoiled the surprise. I kind of wish he would have done this. I think it sounds like it could have been a hell of a joke had he pulled it off. Yes, but, so for those of you who didn't see it, basically, they wanted to make a fake movie, like something that would be truly, truly look horrible, right? And they would put out news releases about casting for it, and they were making some bad movie, when in actuality, they were shooting Deadpool and Wolverine. And then when the movie would come out, it would have the bad movie posters and all that kind of stuff. And then just like a minute into this bad movie, the screen would go black, and then the Marvel logo would come up, and then they would be Deadpool and Wolverine. It would have been one of the greatest things ever pulled off in movie history. But it is 100% the right thing that they didn't do it. Because there is no way under God's green earth that ever would have worked. There is no way. There's not a single chance in the universe they would have been able to pull it off. You saw how many set photos got leaked. There's absolutely no way it would have been done. That it would have happened. It's a great idea, but there's no chance in hell. Ryan was 100% right when he said it wouldn't have worked, and he's 100% right. It would not have worked, unfortunately, because it could have been really funny if they did. Anyway, Anton writes, one of two. Hi, John. I'm 23 years old from the Philippines, Kamusta ka, and have been watching your show since 2018. First time commenting, and it's just, well, thank you for writing in, Anton. I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. Your show got me through college and is a constant part of my day. I am about to enter my second year of medical school, so I won't have as much time to watch your show, sadly, but I'm so grateful to have your show to bring me back to what I loved so much growing up, the movies. Also, fun fact, movies here actually start on time. Is that true? I know we've got a number of viewers in the Philippines, but is that true? Do movies actually start when they say it's going to start? If they do, that's amazing. I think that's it. Anyway, best of luck to you in medical school. Please come on and join us on the show whenever you're able to squeeze in the time. But I hope you have a very successful run and go and get that medical degree, my friend. Good to have you here, Anton. Thanks for writing in. All right. Next up, we've got Arun, who writes, I saw many comments where people are upset about the Robert Downey Jr. casting, calling it a safe casting. That is one of the most idiotic takes, by the way, ever. It's not the safe casting. Are you insane? It is the opposite of a safe casting. Anyway, I don't understand this, as I feel this is one of it is one of the riskiest castings they have done, especially for an actor who's beloved in his role that he has played before. 100%. Listen, you don't need to like the casting of Robert Downey Jr. That's fine. That's totally fair. Nothing wrong with that. If you don't like the casting, you don't like the casting. There is nothing wrong with that. But it is idiotic to call it the safe choice. Are you fucking kidding me? The safe choice is to do it the way they've always done it. The safe choice is to do what they have done for all the other Fantastic Four films. Just do what we've already done. Just do it all again. That's the safe choice. What they just did was really roll the dice. And it might be it might end up being the wrong choice. And it might end up being bad. And it might blow up in their faces. 100% it might. But while you are not wrong to think it's not a good decision, that's fair. I believe you are 1,000% wrong if you say that this is the safe choice. Are you fucking kidding me? This is a lot of things. It is not the safe choice. It might end up being brilliant. It might end up being dumb, but it is 100% not the safe choice. No way. Just get out of here. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Arun. All right. Yeah, I like this. Nora writes, just so you know, lucky they didn't ask RDJ to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang in Tropic Thunder. By the way, what was Robert Downey Jr.'s character's name in Tropic Thunder? I keep forgetting it. I forget the actor's name was in the role. I'm going to wait to see if one of you guys in the live chat remembers it and can fire it into the live chat there. Kirk Lazarus. Patrick was the first one to come up with that. There it is. Kurt Lazarus. Oh my God. I can just see Robert Downey Jr. in his costume and makeup from Tropic Thunder trying to do a Jonathan Majors impression. Oh my God, that would kill me. That would absolutely kill me. Anyway, let's see. All right, next up. Mike Halsey sends in a $50 tip. Mike, thank you so much for supporting us on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Anyway, Mike writes, it's Mike again here in rural, say it, France. I took your advice. I watched your Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review, plus some others, and there's no problems here. I still haven't got a damn clue what to expect. I mean, that's the beautiful thing, right? Is that sometimes you can know everything that's going on in a movie and what happens in a movie, and yet you still don't really know what to, because you get a sense of the skeleton of the movie. You get a sense of some of the bones of the movie, but even listening to a full spoiler discussion, you don't necessarily get it completely fleshed out, and you can go in and watch it and still have it be a completely fresh experience. Okay. The reason it's taking me a little bit of time, guys, to go between, because I don't have Jonathan here to screen the questions. So I have to take a quick look at the question to see if it's safe to bring up on screen. Let's see here. All right. I can't read that one, unfortunately. Okay. We go on to this one. And that, I'm going to see if I can, look, I can't bring it up on the screen, Suthius, but I'm going to read the question. Suthius writes, imagine what the reaction would be if Robert Downey Jr. was never Iron Man. Let's say he was still able to bounce back after his troubles in the early 2000s and went on to have a great career without Marvel. I think his Doom announcement would be explosive amongst all. Here's the problem, though, Suthius. You can't separate Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback from his role in Marvel. Because the reality is, his comeback is Marvel. Because what happened when, and again, this is not at all disparaging Robert Downey Jr. as an actor. He is a fabulous actor. He is a multi-time Academy Award nominated actor and a one-time Academy Award winning actor. He's great, but you cannot separate his comeback from Marvel. Because what has he done outside of Marvel? Well, he did The Judge. By the way, a movie I like. I like The Judge. It's a good movie, but it flopped. He did Doolittle, which is a terrible movie, and flopped. The point now, then he did Oppenheimer as a supporting character, but he won himself an Academy Award. But the thing is, people didn't rush out to see Oppenheimer because of Robert Downey Jr. He was a third-level supporting character in it, right? Listen, Oppenheimer was better because of his performance, and he got the Academy Award and totally deserved it. But it's not like it made the money it did because of Robert Downey Jr. My point is, again, none of that is to disparage Robert Downey Jr. I love Robert Downey Jr., and he's a tremendous talent. But you cannot separate. So no, if Robert Downey Jr. was never Iron Man, even if Robert Downey Jr. had been able to get his career back, it would not have been the same career without Iron Man. And I think even Robert Downey Jr. has come to realize that over the last number of years, which is one of the main reasons he's coming back to play in the MCU again. As a Tony Stark variant who will be known as Victor Von Doom, aka Dr. Doom. Even he knows that. So anyway, there's that. All right. Good question though, man. Let's see. All right. This one, this is a minor spoiler for Deadpool and Wolverine, but it's a behind the scenes thing. So I'm able to read this. An anonymous viewer writes, I just saw on social media that the Welsh Deadpool and the Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine was played by Paul Mullins, the star player for Wrexham, and Rob McElhenney was one of the TVA agents in the opening credits. Yes, he was. We already knew that from Wrexham. If you watched Welcome to Wrexham, there's a scene where they show Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney on set, and they shared that Rob McElhenney was going to be an extra in the film, and you saw that he was wearing a TVA outfit. He was wearing a TVA soldier's outfit. So we all knew that. By the way, it's not just Paul Mullins. The big guy, who's the big guy with the beard on Team Wrexham? Anyway, he's in the movie as well. He's one of the bar patrons in the scene in the bar. So there's and if you read the newsletter that I sent out this morning, Tom Holland's brother is also a little extra in the movie. So there's a lot of these fun. Ollie Palmer, thank you, Michael Robert. Michael Robert got me on that. The Wrexham players, Ollie Palmer, he's in the movie as well. He plays one of the bar patrons. So yeah, there's a lot of these fun little appearances in the movie, which is really nice. All right, next up. Let's see here. Okay, I can bring this up. Jean Grey writes, hey, John and crew, I don't know if you've noticed, but NSYNC's song Bye 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 changed their title name on YouTube. Deadpool and Wolverine Impact is crazy. I haven't seen that they changed the name of it, but I saw a news story come out that said Bye 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 is suddenly ranking really high on the charts, which again, we've seen stuff like that happen before. Remember, we talked about this the other day in Stranger Things, the last season of Stranger Things, Running Up That Hill, all of a sudden exploded and was number one on the Apple iTunes charts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's all in there. All right. Let's see, next up. BMC writes, if Fantastic Four just started filming this week, do you think it'll actually release next July? Oh, easy. Seems too quick to me. Not at all. Won't be surprised if it's delayed. No. That BMC, that is plenty of time. Because you got to remember, especially in today's world of filmmaking, first of all, just a couple of years ago, we had a movie go into production and was literally in theaters like 5 months later. I mean, it's you can do it. It's not that terribly hard. Now, on a movie like a DC or a Star Wars or a Marvel movie or something like that, where you do have so much post-production, so many visual effects and all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing about that, though. Even though they start rolling cameras today. Even though they start rolling cameras today, they have been working on this movie for months. All right? They've been working on this movie for months. Months and months and months and months. That includes all the set construction. That even includes a lot of the visual effects. Because a lot of visual effects can be pre-prepared and then composited in with the live action shooting that they're doing later on. So even though cameras just started rolling, this is a movie they've been working on for a long time. So it's not going to be difficult at all. It's not going to be difficult at all for them to start rolling cameras today and to have a finished project a full year from now. It's the easiest thing in the world. Now, if they said it was coming out in 6 months, yeah, I'd be a little bit nervous. I'd be a little bit nervous about that. But to be honest with you, a full year away, believe me, that's nothing. They're going to be done this movie months before it's even supposed to come out. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. All right. Let's see. Next up, AJ writes, new mask, same task. I wonder if this could be alluding to Tony's obsession with building a suit of armor around his world. That's what I said a little bit earlier too, which could lead to a conflict with the Fantastic Four, who have contrasting ideas of how to approach protecting their world. You know, I brought up on the show the other day, I wonder if they'll have Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom appear in Fantastic Four. He's clearly not going to be the main villain in Fantastic Four. That's clear. But will he at least appear? Now that I know how much they're having to pay him for every movie he's in, I doubt it. I doubt he's going to be in it at all. I don't think Dr. Doom is going to become a problem for the Fantastic Four until after they leave they leave their universe. So, because I think it's just going to be way too, or as Magoo just said in the live chat, post-credit scene, maybe as a quick post-credit scene. I could see that happening. But he's definitely not going to have any kind of a significant role in Fantastic Four. All right. Next up, let's see here. Tron writes, box office tracking currently has The Crow at $6 to $10 million opening. Is anyone surprised? The Crow was always a niche up, and the trailer looks terrible. Thoughts? Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Tron. I am different from the mob. I did not think the trailer to The Crow was all that bad. I actually thought the trailer to The Crow was pretty good. Not great. Didn't make me excited for it. But I got a news flash for everybody. The original Crow isn't that great. I know, I said it. But I've gone back and watched the original Crow a couple times. And is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. It's not that good. And so anyway, that being said, again, in a thumbs up or a thumbs down world, yeah, I give the original Crow thumbs up, but not that much. Anyway, that being said, I don't think the trailer for this one looks all that bad, but I'd be lying if I said I was excited about it. I mean, the trailer's okay. It's got the potential to have some really cool goriness to it. The presentation they showed us for it at CinemaCon looked promising. But listen, you just pointed it out. The original Crow is not that popular. So even if this new Crow looked amazing, I still don't think there would be a lot of people interested in it. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all to hear a $6 to $10 million. I mean, I would have pegged it a little more. I might have said 10 to 15. I might have, like, if you had not told me that and I had to just give a guess, I probably would say 10 to 15, but 6 to 10, yeah, honestly, not surprised. I don't expect it to do good business at all. All right. Next up, Narf writes, that moment when you realize your 5-hour Deadpool 3 live spoiler discussion is still longer than the entire Acolyte series. I remember, so we did for those of you who don't know, we did a Deadpool and Wolverine open spoiler discussion this weekend. And it went well over 5 hours. I think it was like 5 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. And I joked about it saying, man, this spoiler discussion is more than twice as long as the actual movie was. But I think, Narf, I think your math is probably right. My open spoiler discussion was longer than the entire series of The Acolyte. I think you're actually dead right about that. I hadn't thought about that. All right. Let's see. Next up, McFluffy McPee Pants writes, John, my fellow Spartacus fan. I love Spartacus. Are you excited for its glorious return with the House of Asher? It's officially started filming, and they just confirmed that Lucy Lawless is back as Lucretia, Jupiter's cock. Okay. It is one of my top 3 favorite television shows of all time is Spartacus. Love that show. I'd be lying to you, though, if I told you I was excited about the new series. Now, I love the Asher character, too. But clearly, this is going to be another prequel. And I'm not big on prequels. And I would have preferred maybe a story about what happens after, the death of Spartacus. I would have been more interested in that, probably. Listen, am I going to give this show a shot? Absolutely, I will. 100% I'm going to give this show a shot. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was excited about it. I hope it changes my mind. I hope I end up loving it like I did with the other show. But we will have to wait and see, McFloppy. All right. Let's see here. Okay, next up. Wesley Cunningham writes, hopefully my reservations about it can be proven wrong, but what are the chances that Robert Downey Jr. / Doom was already in the works as a secondary threat, even when the plan was still Kang Dynasty, maybe revealed in that movie as the surprise big bad for Secret Wars? So here's the thing. And I have no way to back this up. This is just pure fan speculation on my point. But if you guys remember, long time ago, before the Jonathan Majors drama all started happening, and afterwards, we thought that Secret Wars, if you know the comic story, listen, Dr. Doom, God Emperor Doom, is very, very important to the comic book Secret Wars. Now, again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe can do things differently, right? So it didn't necessarily mean that. But I kind of thought that we were going to see Doom in Secret Wars. I wasn't 100% sold on it, and I have no reason to believe that. It's just, again, just pure fan speculation, just like everybody else. So I think there is a very good chance that Doom was always going to be in Secret Wars. I think there's a good chance that that was always going to be part of it. Now, whether or not it was going to be the Robert Downey Jr. version of it, I don't know, all that kind of stuff. But I think, at least in principle, that Dr. Doom being a part of Secret Wars was probably always a part of the movie. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Darth AI writes, Ryan Reynolds said during interviews that when meeting with Madonna for Like a Prayer, she gave notes and even a suggestion on using the song in Sacrifice scene with DW. Do you think that was a Madonna note? I have never heard a song sung like that before. No, I don't think, we won't go into the details of that scene, but I don't think that was one of her notes. I think that was already, the script was written. So no, I don't believe for a second. I mean, it's a good thing to wonder, but I don't think at all for a second that was part of the thing. The script was already done. So I don't think that was part of her notes. All right. Raymond Verrata writes, now that Deadpool and Wolverine has come out, it was fun to remember that fans, and you included, that Taylor Swift will make a cameo after Ryan, Hugh, Sean, and Blake appeared at the Chiefs game last October. Though Ryan denied it, fans still held their ground. Well, I 100%, like if somebody asked me to bet $5, not 100, bet $5 that Taylor Swift was going to be in the movie in a cameo, I absolutely would have dropped the $5. 100% I would have. Because even just a week and a half before the movie came out, Ryan Reynolds posted a picture of Deadpool in a Taylor Swift pose from one of her album covers with a Taylor Swift song playing. So even Ryan was still clearly trying to imply that she was going to be in it. But again, I fell for it. I totally would have bought into it. I would have lost $5, Raymond. I totally would have lost $5 on that. All right. Let's see. Joshua writes, where is it? Oh yeah. Sorry for the other week. I let my overzealousness get the better of me. I just want to say I wouldn't be making my short now if it weren't for you, for your walks and talks video telling us to make our own film. So thank you. Oh, that's awesome, Joshua. I remember that because Joshua, during our not during our open spoiler discussion, but during our live stream covering the Marvel Hall H panel, was like super chatting in everything that was happening. And it's like, dude, you don't have to do that. We're actually talking about what's happening. But no problem, Joshua. We appreciate the support nonetheless, man. And I'm glad you're making your own short film. I think every film fan should do that. And I'm glad that you are. All right. Let's see. Garden Variety writes, John, I just watched the take by your Brit contemporaries at What Culture, and they tore to shreds the idea of Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doom. That's okay. They're allowed to be wrong. Do you feel that there are negatives to him playing this part, and is it a disservice to Pedro Pascal? How on the fuck is it a disservice? What the fuck does it have to do with Pedro Pascal? No. I don't understand that sentence at all, Garden. I don't know how on earth would it be a disservice to Pedro Pascal. Anyway, that's saying. For the record, I like What's Culture. I watch their videos quite often. So just take that as thing. I like What's Culture. That being said, I don't give a shit that they don't like the casting of Robert Downey Jr. I think it's a fucking brilliant. It's a stroke of genius. And listen, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be eating their words when Doomsday comes out, there are going to be a lot of people eating their words. And there are going to be a lot of people that when Doomsday comes out are going to change their tune and go, oh no, I always knew it was a good idea. Because I remember, you know what this is going to be? This is going to be another Heath Ledger as the Joker situation. Because I remember when Heath Ledger got announced as Joker, everybody cried. Brokeback Mountain, boy. The guy from Brokeback Mountain is Joker. And you know what they all did years later? Oh, I always knew. Everybody on the planet pretends that they always knew that Heath Ledger was a great choice to play Joker. Or the Robert Pattinson thing. Twilight, boy. The guy from Twilight is Batman. This is going to suck. And then a couple years later, they all pretend like they all knew it was a great idea. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I knew Robert Pattinson was going to be a great Batman. You mark my words right now. That's going to happen here. You're going to get everybody and their cousin when Doomsday comes out and is awesome, and it might be terrible. I'm acknowledging that it might totally blow up in their face. But you mark my words right now. Doomsday comes out and it's awesome. All these people out now who are out there crying about this thing, they're all going to be going, oh yeah, of course, everybody knew Robert Downey Jr. coming as Dr. Doom was a great idea. I knew that too. They're all going to be doing it. They did it for Heath Ledger. They did it for Robert Pattinson, and they're going to do it for this. You mark my words. And we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, we've got, oh, cool. Belted Earth 3 writes, hey, John and crew, I attended San Diego Comic-Con for the first time and cosplayed as as Deadpool and got the privilege to be on the main Marvel booth stage where Kevin Feige came out during the cosplay contents and met executive producer Wendy Jacobson from Deadpool and Wolverine. That's awesome. One of the coolest things about Comic-Con is the cosplay aspect of it. I mean, I never cosplay. At least not at Comic-Con and stuff like that. But it is one of the great joys. One of the things I love about going to Comic-Con, whether it's in the convention center or out on the streets, is seeing everybody walking around dressed up in costumes, like expressing their fandom. It's an awesome thing. I love it. And I really like that they have specific special events for celebrating cosplay and all that kind of stuff. I think that's great. I'm glad you had that experience, man. I'm really glad that you did. All right. All right. There's one I definitely can't read. Where are we at? Okay, here we are. Anonymous writes, Deadpool and Wolverine was one of the funniest films I've seen recently, although I don't think it's one I will rewatch much as its story falls short for me. Also, the Deadpool core was super random and a waste. Oh, I disagree. I thought the Deadpool core was awesome. I thought the Deadpool core was great. And you know, it's funny because I've mentioned this a few times. I've read from a lot of people who absolutely love Deadpool and Wolverine, have already seen it multiple times, are gonna see it more times, absolutely love this movie, but say, but the story falls a little flat. I've heard from so many people who love this movie, but then say, but the story's a little flat. I gotta tell you, I don't find that at all. I actually find the story's a pretty solid story. When you sit down, if you break out the story points into a one-page synopsis, I think it's quite a nice story. I think it's really good. But again, like I said, a lot of people and we're not talking about haters here. We're talking about people who love this movie, passionately love this movie, that for them, they still feel that the story fell a little short. I gotta say, I personally disagree. For me, I think the story works quite well. But hey, you're not alone, Anonymous. You're not alone. All right. Next up, Big Boy writes, will Deadpool be watered down if used in future MCU movies? Can they keep that character true under a PG-13 ratings, jokes, and deaths? Or will it just be mildly inappropriate pool? I like that. Listen, there's no doubt about it. If and when Deadpool pops up in other Marvel movies, and by the way, we don't know 100% that he will, but if Deadpool pops up in other Marvel movies, it will not be as R-rated. I wouldn't use the term watered down. I don't think just because something isn't R-rated that it's watered down. But, I mean, obviously you can't have him saying, I won't say the context of the line. So this is a line from Deadpool and Wolverine, but I won't say the context, so it won't mean anything to you. But you can't have Wolverine going, fucky, fucky. He can't say that if he pops up in Spider-Man 4. He can't say that if he pops up in Shang-Chi 2. He can't say that if he pops up in Captain America, right? So it's going to have to be tempered because whatever now they'll push the limits. They'll push the limits of what they could do with a PG-13. And he can drop one F-bomb. You get one. And you know, if Deadpool's in a Marvel movie, they're going to save that one F-bomb for Deadpool, but it's definitely going to be a PG-13 Deadpool. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's watered down. They're just going to have to be more creative with how they handle him. Okay. Let's see. Thomas writes, do you think Fantastic Four movie will end with a time shift to present day? Or perhaps that happens in a post-credit scene? This is very, very important to understand, Thomas. This Fantastic Four movie does not take place in our universe. Or in Marvel speak, it does not take place in the 616. So this Fantastic Four movie could be happening at the exact same time that the events of the 616 are happening. It's just that in their universe, right now, it's their 1960s. Even though for us, it's 2024, in that universe, it's currently 1960, right? So it's not a time shift, it's a universe jump. They're going to have to go from one universe into another universe. So it's not a time shift, it's a completely different universe, and that's what they're going to have to deal with. All right. Let's see. All right, next up. Darth Anonymous writes, my concern is how are they going to establish Doctor Doom and make him a threatening force? The audience has no reason to be scared. If he's not main villain in Fantastic Four, he has to appear in something else. No, he does not. He needs to have a Thanos/Hulk fight like in Infinity War. Okay, this is a massive... I don't understand this thinking amongst my fellow film fans. A villain needs like a 4-movie buildup. Killmonger is basically considered to be one of the greatest, maybe not the, but one of the greatest Marvel villains in any movie. He didn't have a buildup. You know who else never had a buildup? Darth Vader. Darth Vader just appeared in Star Wars. Amongst many, many, many movie fans consider Hans Gruber in Die Hard. There are a lot of movie fans out there who consider Hans Gruber as like the greatest movie villain of all time. Obviously, it's Darth Vader, but there are many movie fans who consider that Hans Gruber might be one of the greatest movie villains ever. Didn't need 5 movies to build up to Hans Gruber. He just appeared. He was just there. Heath Ledger's Joker, considered by some people to be one of the greatest, maybe the greatest comic book movie villain of all time. Heath Ledger's Joker didn't need 2 other films to build up to him coming into that. He just popped up. He appeared in The Dark Knight, won an Academy Award for the role, and is still considered today by many comic book fans to be the greatest villain ever in comic book movies. Look, Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom does not need to first be introduced in another film. He doesn't need it. And it's funny that you mentioned the Thanos Hulk fight, because that happens in Infinity War, right? So the Hulk Thanos fight happens in Infinity War. It doesn't happen before Infinity War. It happens in Infinity War. Now, I agree with you. I think they're going to need to give Doctor Doom, 100% I'm in agreement with you on this. They're going to need to give Doctor Doom a set of circumstances that establishes him as somebody the audience really needs to fear. And while we did meet Thanos in previous movies, he never did anything, right? We met Thanos in previous movies, sure, but he never did anything. It wasn't until Infinity War started that for a lot of people, okay, this is our real first time seeing Thanos really doing something. Thanos comes on, he's decimated Thor and all the Asgardians. He kills Heimdall and all this kind of stuff, and then has his Hulk fight. That's all they need. That's all they need for Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom, is in Doomsday, in the first 15 minutes somewhere, you have a scene like that establishes what he is, and that's all you need. You don't... Now, is it a bad idea to have him pop up in a movie or two before Doomsday? No, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. But do they need it? Nah, they don't need it. None of the other greatest villains of all time needed it. Doctor Doom won't need it. If they write him well and they do it right, they don't need it. All right. Ooh, I like FH's theory. Show him killing all the rest of the Kangs. That's not a bad idea. Like, start off with him being, this Kang guy is just a pest, and he kills all the Kangs. I mean, I don't know that they're going to do that, especially since there'd have to be Kangs with their faces covered, because it's not going to be Jonathan Majors. But that would be pretty funny. I'd like that. All right. Let's see. Next up, Stubble McShave writes, with Doom being the big bad, I'm even more convinced that Reed will be the leader of the Avengers. I don't think so. I think Reed is going to be the leader of the Fantastic Four. I don't think they're going to make him the leader of the Avengers. And Doctor Doom being the big bad guy, I'll be honest with you, Stubble, I don't find that at all necessitates that Reed's has to then be the big... Listen, the Fantastic Four have a huge pantheon of villains, a huge rogues gallery. And so they don't have to just have Doctor Doom paired with Reed Richards. So I don't think he will be. I mean, he might. You might be right. I'm just saying I don't think he will, but that's just me. Okay, gotta skip over that one. Okay, so I have to read one from the middle because the question before and after it both contain Deadpool spoilers. So, Vinchester writes, the notion that we can't look past Robert Downey Jr. being Tony Stark is ridiculous to me. I was halfway through Oppenheimer before I said, hey, that's Robert Downey Jr. See, here's the thing. There are people out there saying, you can't have Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. Why? Because whenever anybody ever sees him, they're just going to think Tony Stark. Two replies to that. Number one, what Vinchester just said. It's funny, I saw him in Oppenheimer and I didn't think Tony Stark. I saw him in Doolittle and didn't think Tony Stark. Kind of wish I saw Tony Stark in it. But anyway, saw Doolittle, I saw The Judge, and I didn't see Tony Stark. So there's that. But here's the main thing. And I brought this up on yesterday's show. And I think this is key. To anybody who would say, you can't do Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom because too much of the audience just will see him and identify him with Tony Stark. To that I say, exactly. You see, for Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and McFeely and Robert Downey Jr., the fact that the audience is going to have a hard time seeing this without seeing their hero, Tony Stark, is not only not a problem for the Russo brothers, it's what they're counting on. They are counting on and relying that the audience is going to have a hard time separating in their heads their hero from who is now their doom. And create that emotional conflict. That when they see the face of Robert Downey Jr., what their heart wants to feel is that they're looking at Earth's greatest defender. They're looking at their hero. They're looking at their Avenger. But then that guy who, when they look at him, they feel hope and safety, ends up being the one destroying their city or ends up being the one killing their loved ones. That creates the dramatic effect that I think they're going for. So whereas some people are saying they're worried that the audience might look at the face of Robert Downey Jr. and just kind of see their hero, I'm saying that's exactly what they're counting on. That's exactly what they're going for. That's exactly what the Russo brothers want. They're counting on it. And it's going to create a huge emotional crux, I think, for the audience. And if they do it well, and we don't know that they will, and it is reliant on them doing well, but if they do it well, man, it can be something really, really special. All right. Let's see here. Where are we at? Got to make sure there's no spoiler of this. Okay. So yes. Next up, we got, Vinchester writes in again and says, additionally, Inside Out 2 just passed Top Gun Maverick and is closing in on The Lion King. How far can this make? I don't think it'll catch Lion King because it's still like $100 million behind Lion King or something like that. And it's nearly done its theatrical run. I mean, it's been in theaters for a long time now. And now we got Minions out there. We got Deadpool. We got Twister. We got like a lot of stuff. We got Alien coming out soon. We got Trap coming out. So I don't think, I could be wrong. It could, it's possible. I don't think it'll catch Lion King to become the #1 animated film of all time, but oh my God, if it does, that would be huge. But passing Top Gun Maverick, I mean, no one saw that coming. No one saw that coming. That's impressive. All right. Anonymous writes, I saw Deadpool and Wolverine at my local drive-in theater on Thursday night, and it sold out, which I haven't seen happen since Endgame. So many people turned up that the other screen playing Twister sold out as well from the people who didn't get in for Deadpool. And you know what? That's been a phenomenon we've been seeing more of in the last couple of years. Is what they call the overflow effect. Because it used to be a bunch of years ago, if a massive, massive movie was opening, all the other movies would clear out, right? But what we started seeing happening in recent years is some movies look to counter programming and to take advantage of overflow audiences. You know, it's hey, we wanted to see this movie, but it's sold out. Well, we're planning on going to a movie that night anyway. So what is available? And they go to something else, right? So we've seen in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years or so, more and more movies trying to take advantage of overflow audiences. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that for some other movies as well. Twister's made $35 million this weekend. Guys, when a movie makes over 200 million, Deadpool and Wolverine, it's not often another movie will make over $30 million as well. And Twisters in its second weekend made $35 million. So I think there is a little bit of overflow there. All right. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Connor 801 says, I found Monday's discussion on Comic-Con really interesting. With the Olympics being confirmed again in my home city, Salt Lake City, Utah, it got me thinking whether SLC would be a good city to move Comic-Con to. I don't think so. It's because it doesn't address a number of the problems, right? It's not an easily accessible city. It does not have the convention facilities that say something like a Las Vegas does. So I don't think, you can have a good Comic-Con in Salt Lake City, and I'm sure that they do, but I don't think you can move the main thing there. I don't think that's something they would consider. Not that it could be out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think so. All right. Next up, and again, I have to make sure there's no spoilers in it. Okay. This one comes to us from Say My Name, who writes, picture it. Deadpool makes an appearance in future PG-13 Marvel film for first time and goes to say, what the shit, but the S word gets bleeped. We've talked about that a lot. He looks around confused and asks, what's that noise? Then throws a hissy fit followed by continuous beeping language. Yeah, we've talked about that forever. That what we basically think will happen is when Deadpool does eventually make his first appearance, there's going to be a lot of beeping. And they're going to make that beeping a part of the joke. That he'll say, F you, it'll be burp you. And maybe at first he'll then react to the beeping. You can't carry that on for too long. But you can continuously use beeping through it. And I think it could be a very, very funny thing they do in the movies moving forward if they do it right. Okay. I can't answer. Oh, say my name. Just put in like a 3-parter, dude, and I cannot read it on screen. Next up. Where are we at? Here we are. Next up, Tony P writes. I just realized I still had that one thing on the screen. Okay. Tony P writes, I never understood the mentality of they never said it, did it before, so they can do it now. Oh, God, I can't. Nope, sorry. Can't read that one either. Let's see. Okay, J-Rod UK writes, Dr. Doom's face is notoriously disfigured. Likelihood that they go with that for RDJ's version. Also, butter on popcorn, like melted Land O'Lakes butter or something else butter flavored, is really confusing for us Brits. Okay, so to answer that first, because I just found out, I never knew this before, that people in England don't put butter on their popcorn. What the hell is the point of having popcorn then? Anyway, the best stuff is real butter. Some movie theater chains use real butter. Some movie theater chains use a butter tasting substance, which can also be good, but I prefer the stuff that's real butter. Anyway, yes, I do believe there will be some disfiguring of this Victor Von Doom's face, but it would not so disfigured that you can't tell that it's Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, I think there will be some disfiguring, but it'll still be clear that this is a variant of Tony Stark. That Victor Von Doom, from whatever world he's from or whatever universe he's from or whatever, that Victor Von Doom, this Victor Von Doom individual is a Tony Stark variant. And so that's going to be clear, but I do think there's going to be some disfiguring. All right. Let's go to, all right. They call me Deep Impact writes, hey everyone. I have a theory that there is going to be an extended cut of Deadpool and Wolverine, which would be released in theaters sometime this year. If there, remember my name. Also, why Thor cry? That was in a trailer, so that's fine. That can be in there. No, I don't believe they will. I mean, listen, we can't put it by Marvel because they have pulled that nonsense before. They have pulled that nonsense before. I don't think Ryan Reynolds will do it. I don't think he would go for that. And even though Kevin Feige is the one who makes that decision, I think if Ryan Reynolds says, I would prefer us not to do that, I think Feige will take a pass on. But it's possible. My guess is they will not do that. Okay. All right. Frustrated. Right. Sorry, guys. I have to read the questions now because I don't have Jonathan here to screen the questions. Frustrated writes, imagine this. You work 8 hours, drive 3 hours into the city, get a 10 p.m. Deadpool showing, and then 10 minutes into the movie, the empty chair in front of you is filled by someone who constantly rocks and hits your legs and smells like a bottle of cologne. Yeah. Listen, the greatest thing about movie going is watching a movie with other people. But every once in a while, that can also be its weakness. And Affair says in the live chat, and I agree, well, it's better than a bottle of body odor. 100%. 100%. But yeah, that sucks, man. Now, some people will take a situation like that and say, well, John, that's a good argument about why pre-assigned seating is bad. My response to that is, hey, if the theater's full, the theater's full. Even if there wasn't pre-assigned seating, if the theater's full, you can't get up and change chairs anyway. Now, what you can do, I've totally seen movie theaters be very sympathetic to this. What you can do is you can go to the manager, privately explain your problem, and ask for a refund or a ticket to another screening, and you'll have no problem with them helping you. Now, if you can decide you can put up with it because you want to watch Deadpool, all the more power to you. But if it's really bad, you can go to the customer service desk, explain the problem, and they'll take care of you. So I'm pretty sure they will at any rate. Okay. Let's see here. Next up. Okay. This comes to us from Jordan D, who sends in like a $50 tip. Jordan, thank you so much, man, for supporting us on that level. Super appreciate that. That's incredibly generous of you. And he writes, part 1 of 3, John, I eschew social media, but I must tell you that as a social worker counseling individuals with severe mental illness in New York City, God bless you, by the way, for doing that, I want to let you know that you and your show allow reflection, reprieve, and recourse in my life and work. Oh, man. Part 2, it may sound incongruent, but a show hosted by a man who endeavors to discuss why we love films helps me as a clinician better support my clients through narrative and empathy. You're part of my field, sir. Oh, that's incredibly kind to say. Don't let the hate, vitriol, and ignorance get you down. I don't know you, but you seem like a true man who knows how to take care of your lady, family, friends, and audience. Much love and keep on trucking, you good Canadian kid. And by the way, all together, for those of you who are listening to the podcast version of this, Jordan just tipped in like $150. Dude, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. That's incredibly generous of you, just so you can write in and say something encouraging. Listen, I've said for a long time, I say it all the time, and I'll say it for the rest of my career, however much longer that's going to be, that one of the great things about movies and the movie loving community is that that's what movies and talking about movies offers to us. It offers us a way to dream and imagine and to think about the way the world can be, also the way the world is, our hopes, our fears, our dreams, our aspirations, all that kind of stuff. And in going into a movie or into discussions with our fellow film fans, it offers us that reprieve. It offers that, I call it the oasis. It gives us an oasis. And I've found many times in my life, man, that movies have been that for me. When something rough is going on or whatever, I know I can either jump into a movie discussion with people or sit down and plunge myself into a movie, and it doesn't fix my problems. Well, what it does is it adjusts my perspective and it gives me a break. And then I'm able to come back to my problems, which are still there, but I'm just a little bit better able to deal with them. You know what I mean? And if this show can be that for you, Jordan, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled, especially with the important work that you do. So thank you for being here and thank you for sharing that with me, man. That was very, very kind for you to say. And for supporting us on that level. I really appreciate that, man. Let's see. Next up, Lee Crow writes, can you believe they got Oscar winner Robert Downey Jr. to play Dr. Doom? Do you think he called up Feige the night he won and requested it? Obviously a little bit of a reference to at least the urban legend about how Mahershala Ali got the role as Blade, if he ever does get to play Blade. But I like what you did there, Lee. That was clever. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got Jor-El, the Godfather writes, John, do you have an all-time favorite actor? Mine is Marlon Brando. Brando is amazing. Brando is great. All time. Let me pull up this statistic here first. So I think his last, because I'm not sure if his last movie was the one I'm thinking of or not. I want to get this before I say it. I got to go to his IMDb page just to check what his last movie was, because he's not with us anymore. Oh my God, he did a bunch more. He did. Although I was going to say, I thought the last movie he did was Stardust, but oh my God, no, he still did tons. He did tons after that. I can't believe, oh yeah, that's right. He did that one. Okay. Anyway, so one of my current favorite actors in the world is Russell Crowe. He doesn't necessarily always appear in the best stuff, but as a pure actor, this dude is a powerhouse. Whether you're looking at Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, Gladiator, The Insider, Mystery Alaska. The dude is a phenom of an actor. He's one of my favorite in the world. But my all-time favorite is Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole, I think, is my all-time favorite actor. And for whatever reason, I had in my head that Stardust was his final film, and he did several after that. But yeah, I think Peter O'Toole is probably my my all-time favorite. All right, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Andrew Alpha writes, I was so underwhelmed by Deadpool and Wolverine that I went to see Twisters the very next day. After leaving the theater, I can say this definitively. Twisters is the movie of the summer. Spielbergian heart with modern movie stars and CGI, pure summer movie perfection. I also liked Twisters quite a bit. I don't think it was that good, but I enjoyed Twisters very much. I thought it was a fun movie. Thumbs up for me. It looks like it may not even break even. I hope it does. It still has a ways to go. It could still very well break even. But but listen, this is the beautiful thing about film. Like, Deadpool and Wolverine for me is maybe the movie other than Dune 2, which is the best movie of the last 10 years. Other than Dune 2, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is the movie of the year. But this is the beautiful thing about film, is that it hits us all in different ways, and we all have different experiences with it. And listen, no matter how good a movie is, there are going to be some people that doesn't hit them the right way. No matter how bad a movie is, there's going to be some people that it hit them exactly the right way at exactly the right time, and they love it. And none of us are wrong. That's the beautiful thing about it, right? So I personally love Deadpool and Wolverine. You didn't, and that's totally great. It's wonderful that we have different experiences with the same movie, and I love that about film. All right. Okay, going to skip over that. Okay, easy enough. All right. Kayla T writes, I'm honestly excited about RDJ as Dr. Doom. Imagine Rhodey or Bruce seeing him for the first time. They would feel so conflicted inside. Opportunity for great storytelling. 100%, absolutely. It's going to be moments like that. And not just guys like Rhodey or Banner or any of the rest of them. It's the audience. It's the audience. So there's going to be some great on-screen drama they can pull from this with torn and conflicting emotions, because everybody's going to want to save him, right? They're going to see this Dr. Doom with the face of Tony Stark, and they're going to want to save him. They're going to want to believe the best about him, that, you know, like whatever universe he comes from, he's still a version of Tony. And they're going to either going to want to believe the best about him, or they're going to want to save him, and ultimately they're going to get devastated. And it just offers a lot of narrative telling possibilities. All right. Anonymous writes, the time travel / multiverse stuff in the MCU feels so muddy and confusing. In Deadpool and Wolverine, I was so distracted trying to figure out how things worked and how timeline / variants fit together that it was difficult to get immersed in the story and characters. You know, one of the things that I think Deadpool and Wolverine did well, that say something like the Marvels didn't do well, was they used moments of exposition to fully catch the audience up. But even though they did a good job of that, the very nature of the multiverse is muddling. The very nature of the multiverse is convoluted. So even though I think Deadpool and Wolverine did a much better job of catching the audience up and giving them all the bases they need to fully come along with the movie, where, say, The Marvels, a movie which I liked The Marvels, but it did that very badly. That was something they did very, very badly. I thought Deadpool and Wolverine did it very well. But even then, just the very nature of it. And you know what else makes it even worse in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? There's no consistency with their rules of time, multidimensionalism, or multiverse. Like even Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm not going to say what it is, but they bring up this new concept. It's like, that's never been in anything else before. Like everything operates differently. It's convoluted. It's disjointed. It's inconsistent. They need to finish off this multiverse nonsense. At least that's how I feel about it, Anonymous. All right. Let's see. Next up says, John, I've seen some reports claim that RDJ is netting between 500 and 600 million. No, you can just throw that away. Throw that away. That is not true. Not going to happen. Is netting between 5 and 600 million for his role as Doom? No, that's fucking stupid. And that he'd only come back if the Russos directed. That, according to a report in the real trades like Variety stuff, that is true. That part is true. If the Russos directed, do you think this is true? And if so, could these be the most expensive films ever made? First of all, it is true that one of his stipulations was he only really wanted to come back if it was going to be working with the Russos. At least that's what Variety and the Hollywood Reporter are saying. So the $500 and $600 million, that's bullshit. That's pure, unfiltered bullshit. Don't even remotely believe that. But he is going to get the biggest paycheck, from what I understand, at any rate, which could be right or could be wrong. He is going to get the biggest paycheck of all time, but it's going to be around the $100 million mark per film. Anyway. It's possible and Doomsday and Endgame or Secret Wars could end up being the most expensive films ever. It's possible, but I doubt they will. Bob Iger has a commitment to staying fiscally sane, right? Bob Iger is committed to being fiscally sane. So what you're not going to see is a $500 million budget on a movie. No. Bob Iger will never allow that. He's been very direct with the shareholders and everything that we are going to bring fiscal sanity to what we're doing. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be on the very high end. Doesn't even necessarily mean that it won't be the most expensive film of all time. It could be. But even if it is, it won't be the most expensive by a lot. So yes, I think it's going to be a very, very expensive film. And also don't forget that a lot of Robert Downey Jr.'s money that he's going to be making isn't going to be a part of the budget. It's going to be points on the box office that comes after production. Even then, it's not going to be $500 to $600 million. But yeah, it's going to be expensive, possibly the most expensive. But even if it is the most expensive, it won't be the most expensive by much because Bob Iger has been very, very, very vocal about that. All right. Okay. AJ writes, since Avengers Doomsday begins production during the second quarter of 2025, when do you imagine casting announcements for the film will be made? Is it a stretch to say they reveal that info at this year's D23? Can't imagine that they can keep it secret for long. No, I think they're going to announce a lot at D23. There's pathetic, stupid horseshit excuse for a convention. Fuck D23. Anyway, I do believe they're going to make a bunch of announcements at it, but I don't believe that they're going to be making, I don't believe for a second that they'll be making casting announcements for it. Other than stuff, they may reiterate things we already know. Like we know that, Doctor Strange will be there. Like for that, no doubt. We know that. Robert Downey Jr. is going to be in that. No doubt. Chris Hemsworth has already pretty much confirmed he's not done playing Thor. So I think it's pretty safe to say but as far as like substantive announcements about Avengers Doomsday, nah, that movie's not coming out for a couple of years. So I'm really not expecting to see them talk that much about at D23 at any rate. All right, because it's just still way too far away. Let's see here. Next up, AJ also writes, all the buzz from Comic-Con is deserved about the Russos and Downey, but I think the dark horse announcement has to be the return of Stephen McFeely, absolutely, to pen the script for Doomsday. Curious as to why no Christopher Marcus, but still a win for the writer's room. Yeah, so Marcus and McFeely were the tandem that were writing those other movies. Why is it just McFeely? No idea. Marcus may have other contracts to work on other things. He might be doing other stuff right now. McFeely may be the one who's available right now. Maybe Marcus is just like, you know what? We've done a lot of stuff in the MCU. I'm over it. I'm writing other stuff. I mean, there could be a million different reasons why, but I completely agree with you, AJ. I think the fact that McFeely is back and writing again, the guy who worked with the Russos to bring us all those other great movies, I think that is a huge, huge aspect to this that is not going to get the buzz that it probably deserves. All right. Okay. Rib for Yo Pleasure writes, hey, John and crew, there's actually a really good storyline from Marvel Comics where Iron Man becomes Doctor Doom that the MCU can adapt. True, I don't think they are, though. Victor tricks Tony and essentially does a Freaky Friday. Check out Geek Comics Explained. He gives a great exposition on it. Yeah, there is a story in there where Doom like takes over the body of Tony Stark. The reason why they may take elements of that story, here's the reason why I don't think that's what they're necessarily going with. Number one, that can't be in our 616 universe because Tony is already dead in our 616, which means it has to happen in another universe, right? If it's happening in another universe, then you don't necessarily need the mechanic, the storytelling mechanic of Doom essentially possessing the body of Tony Stark. You don't need that as your mechanic, right? You can do a lot of different other things. Like the idea, like I think it's more compelling that this Victor Von Doom is indeed a variant of our 616 Tony Stark. But in that universe, again, there's a million different reasons why he is now known as Victor Von Doom. Whether his great grandparents never moved out of Latveria and they always kept the name Von Doom, whether a young Tony was orphaned as a child and he was adopted by a royal family in this European country and took on the name Victor and is now Victor Von. I mean, there's a million different things you can do. So while I do believe they can draw aspects from that storyline and use them in the movie, I don't think they're necessarily going to go with that mechanic. They could. It's possible. But then it's about them trying to save Tony again, right? I personally like the idea when they see the face of Tony Stark, they want to save him, but it's hopeless because this one is evil. Rather than they see the face of Tony Stark and they want to save him, and they could save him because he's really just being, body swapped. He's really just being essentially possessed. And I don't want it to become a story about saving Tony. Now, if their plan, which it very well could be, is this is their way to bring Tony Stark / Iron Man back into the MCU, maybe that's the way they're playing it. But I do kind of like the idea that everybody wants to save Tony, but it's hopeless because it's not really Tony. This is a different being. This person's life went way different than the one in your universe that you knew, which essentially means he's a totally different dude and there's no saving him because there's nothing to save. I kind of like that a little bit more, but you could be right, man. That could be the way they decide to go with it. Let's see. Okay, good. I can read this one. The World of Tomorrow. Tim Morrow writes, hello. Last week I wrote that I was seeing Deadpool and Wolverine in 3D, unfortunately. Surprised to say I thought the 3D was actually pretty good, especially in the fight scenes, but still wouldn't recommend the 3D, and I have no plans to see it in 3D again. Not bad though. Yeah, I remember you writing in about that. I mean, look, I will never by choice go to a 3D screening. 3D is a stupid, useless gimmick. The whole idea of directors and cinematographers working years to create these bright, vivid, colorful, magnificent images on a screen, and the first thing we do is slap some tinted film over our eyes, is to me the most ridiculous thing. And it's just a gimmick. It's not really good. Now, I'll be way more interested in 3D once they're able to crack the code on the technology where we can have glasses less 3D, like where you can have a 3D screen that literally requires no glasses. I'll be interested in seeing what they can do then. That'll be revolutionary. For me, 3D is completely stupid, but I don't hate it so much. And I think I said this before, Tim, I don't hate it so much that if that's my only option to see a movie, well, then I'll go see it, right? Like if on opening night, the only remaining screening of Deadpool and Wolverine was in 3D, I'd go, okay, I mean, I'm not happy about that, but yeah, I'll still go see it. Like, it's not like I hate it so much and I go, no, I'd rather just stay at home than watch it in stupid 3D. No, I'll still go. I'll still put the stupid glasses on and watch stupid 3D. But anyway, I'm glad it didn't take away from your experience. And I'm glad you had fun with it regardless. All right. The World of Tim Morrow also writes in again, says, keeping the spirit of this huge success for an R-rated film, did any of you ever sneak into an R-rated film when you were younger? A memorable one for me was sneaking into Superbad when I was 15. This was before picking seats ahead of time. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. You know what? I've been in conversations where this question's been asked before. Like, did I ever sneak into an R-rated film? And I'm sure that I did. I'm sure I did. But I couldn't tell you which one it would have been. I just don't know. No, I do remember. 1 second. I just want to get the year for this. Oh, yeah. I was like 10 years old. And I don't know how I did it, but I want to bring this up on the screen if I can. Let me see if I can do this here. Where is it? Where am I? I'm lost. Man, doing this without Jonathan here is tricky. All right. Tell me if any of you guys remember this movie. Young Doctors in Love. Young Doctors in Love. Any of you remember this? Had Sean Young in it. Who else was in it? I knew the guy who just died from... the guy who just died, he was in 9 to 5. He was in You've Got Mail. He was in Cloak and Dagger. Darby something. Any of you guys remember? I don't want to look. All right, I'm going to click and look. See if Dabney Coleman. That's right. That's it. Blue Rock was the first one to get it. Thank you, Blue Rock. Dabney Coleman. I'm going to go down here and where's Dabney Coleman? There he is. Dabney Coleman was in it too. Young Doctors in Love. And it wasn't during its original run. It wasn't during, I think it was like a year or two later, they did another run of it and something. And I was really young and I don't know how. I think me and my buddy, Aggie Cabral, that was when I was a kid, that was my buddy's name, Aggie Cabral, Portuguese guy, Portuguese. And I don't know how, but somehow, some way, we managed to sneak into Young Doctors in Love. And that is if I remember, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but if I remember correctly, that was a very dirty movie. That's a very, very bring on the filthy kind of movie for that era, right? But yeah, because we were young. How did we manage that? We were like 10. We were like 10. Maybe, I don't know how we got into that, but I remember seeing that and seeing boobies. Boobies. And that was a big deal. Who am I kidding? It's still a big deal to me. All right. Next up, boobies. Brandon Salad says, "Hey crew, super jazzed to see Robert Downey Jr. back. Can't wait to see what the writers do with that character. Do you think RDJ will need to create some sort of accent to further distance himself from Tony Stark / RDJ's own voice pattern?" Here's the thing. While I believe they want to distance Doom from Stark actually as little as possible. I think they actually want to distance Doom from Stark as little as possible. I think it's actually something that they're hoping to capitalize on. That being said, I do suspect and expect we're going to hear an accent. I do think we're going to hear an accent, but it's to get the accent will be to give a distinctiveness to the character rather than for the purpose of separating Stark from Doom, right? So, but I think it's to give him a little bit more distinctiveness. So that's what I think at any rate. All right, next one up. We got Disney Gifts by Bryce, who writes, "I finally got to see Twisters, not in 4DX though. Thanks a lot, Deadpool." And I loved it. At the theater, there was a sign in the box office that said Deadpool is an R-rated film and no one under the age of 6 would be allowed in. Oh, that's interesting. Usually kids can get into an R-rated film with their parents or guardians, right? Does this kind of thing happen often? Just thought it was odd. See, here's the interesting thing about the MPA ratings. Theaters can do whatever they want. Theaters can do whatever they want. If the MPA gave an NC-17 rating to a movie, if a movie theater wanted to, they could let anybody in that they chose. They could let anybody in that they wanted to. It's not law. Now, that being said, movie theaters follow the MPA guidelines by choice because it's good for business. It maintains a good relationship between the theaters and parents. Parents want to know that you're not just going to let their kids in to see a bunch of boobies if they're not there with them and stuff like that. So they voluntarily follow it, but they don't have to. They don't have to. And so it goes the other way as well. So even if rated R in the United States means anybody under 17 has to be accompanied by an adult, which theoretically means a baby can be brought in. If a movie theater decides, hey, we don't want 5-year-olds in this, then that's up to the movie theater. That's up to the movie theater. It's totally their right to do it. It doesn't happen often. It's extremely rare. But it is up to the theater, and it does happen sometime. Good question, though. All right. Next up. Oh, my God. This one comes to us from Thanos' butt plug, who writes, "Hey, gang, I saw Deadpool and Wolverine last Friday in San Diego and was met with not one, but 2 Nicole Kidman ads before the movie started. Short version before the Dolby sizzle, and then the long version after. Absolutely absurd, of course, after 15 to 20 minutes of trailers." Dude, I'm so ready. Listen, I love Nicole Kidman. Nicole, if you're watching, I love you. You're amazing. You're a goddess of this industry. I am so over that ad, though. To be fair, I was over that ad after the 5th or 6th time that I saw it. It's a cool ad, but as I've said this many times, I will say it again. What is the point of making your audience wait even longer for the movie to start to show an advertisement for your movie theater when the audience seeing the advertisement is already sitting in your movie theater? I don't get that. What's the point of making your audience wait even longer for the movie to start just to show them an ad trying to tell them to come to your movie theater when they're already sitting in your movie theater? To me, and you've heard me say this before, that makes about as much sense as asking a girl to look at your Tinder profile when you're already in the middle of intercourse. Like, you're screwing each other already. What's the point of saying, hey, wait a second, can before we continue the fornication, can you take a look at my Tinder profile? That makes as much sense to me. That's like, what's the point? We're sitting in your damn movie theater. I'm here. See me? I am here. I bought a ticket. I'm in your movie theater. The movie was supposed to start 25 minutes ago. Can we dispense with my 500th viewing of Nicole Kidman saying, we come to this place so we can get to the damn movie? Anyway. Marcus Y saying, well, she can update the profile with stats. I like that. She can update the profile with stats. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. Next up. There we go. Anonymous writes something that another viewer wrote in a little bit earlier. I find it odd when people say they will not be able to see RDJ as anything other than Tony Stark. Did you think that Louis Strauss was going to put on the Iron Man suit and start beating up Cillian Murphy while watching Oppenheimer? Now, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Now, what somebody else, I'm playing devil's advocate for a second, what somebody else might say is that's different because it's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. True. That's valid. That would be a valid thing to bring up. Oppenheimer is not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I still think the principle of what you're saying stands, though. And again, my argument is that the Russo brothers want you to have a hard time discerning between our Tony and some other universe's Victor Von Doom. I think that's what they want. That is what Feige and the Russos and McFeely want. They want you to have a hard time making that distinction because that's where the emotional drama is going to come from. At least I think. All right. Anonymous writes, hello, everyone. I heard you guys talk about it yesterday, but the Russo brothers confirmed on Instagram that Stephen McFeely will be the writer for Avengers 5, hopefully for Avengers 6 as well. Again, I think that is fabulous news. The fact that he's back in the mix again, it's going to be great for everybody involved. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Eraser Burger writes, Avengers Payday. No doubt. Avengers Payday. 100%. It's everybody's getting paid. All right. Anonymous writes, what if Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom was in the same truck explosion as the 616 Tony, but instead, his head is injured, leaving him forgetting his identity, but retaining his intellect and leading him down a very different path with a name that he gives himself, Victor Von Doom. Totally a way they could go. They could totally go that way. I personally think that whatever branch happens that will make the Victor Von Doom of whatever their universe is diverging from him going on to become the Tony Stark we know in 616, I think will happen much earlier in Tony's life. Maybe even before Tony's born. Like I said, the one theory that a fan wrote in that I really like is the issue of, okay, what if, most people in America, most people in this country, either they or somewhere down their family line, their families immigrated to this country and started a new life here. And maybe they're first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth. Well, what if the same is true for Tony Stark? What if Tony Stark's grandparents or great-grandparents were from some little European country called Latveria, only that great-grandfather decided not to immigrate to America, stayed there, and they never, because a lot of immigrant families, when they come to America, they change their name. My grandparents never changed our family name, Campea, but my grandfather, whose name is Giovanni, who I'm named after, he started going by John. right? He started going by John to kind of fit in. But a lot of immigrant families over the years have changed their entire names to fit in more with their culture. So where maybe our Tony 616, his grandfather or great grandfather immigrated over and changed their real family name, Von Doom, to something that didn't sound so ominous here and changed it to Stark. And what happens if in some other universe that grandfather never did come over? So Tony's father was born in Latveria and Tony was born in Latveria, only they still had their true family name, Von Doom, and instead of being named Tony, he's named Victor. But he's got all the intellect, he's got all that stuff, that variant happened that way. So I think what you're saying could be good, but I kind of like the idea of it going back even further. Even further. Okay, I'll read this. So this is not really a movie question, but I'll read this quickly. Dear Dr. Love Campea writes, not movie related, but you give good tips. A friend of mine is getting married soon. I got invited, but sadly, my ex-girlfriend, the only person I ever loved, I'm going to guess IA means is invited with her new douchey boyfriend. How to react? How to behave? Did something like this ever happen to you? Thanks. Yeah, listen, I can honestly say I can't think of an exception to this. I honestly got along well with all my exes. I mean, there was one ex that we totally ghosted from each other, but we lived in different areas of the city, so we never crossed paths again and blah, blah. But really, I always got along well with my exes. I think, just understand this. Life is long. The world is big. You're going to have other people that you love in your life, 100% that you will. And, you know, you're going to be, just be mature about it. You're there. Doesn't mean you have to interact. Doesn't mean you have to talk to each other, but you're there. And if you do bump into each other, wish her well, and then move on, because guess what? You're going to move on in your life too. So really the best thing to do it is just not really think about it. They're going to be there. Okay. But that's a different chapter of your life. You're in a new chapter of your life now. Don't spend too much time obsessing about it and just move on. Because again, life is long, even though it's short, and you will have more experiences. Okay. Let's see. Dennis H. writes, do you think it would have been more intriguing if Marvel had outed Robert Downey Jr. as Doom in an end credit scene of an upcoming film, a la Thanos did at the end of Avengers, instead of at San Diego Comic-Con? Why do you think they didn't? Too hard to keep it a secret. Thanks. You know what, Dennis? Can you imagine if at the end of Fantastic Four, there's a scene goes, you just see this big, glorious, like a beautiful, lush green hills and this glorious old castle. And it says, and then the words come up, Latveria. And then you see this big figure with his back to the camera. And one of the servants said, Lord Von Doom, so-and-so has happened and blah, 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 blah. And then camera gets tight on the back of that figure. And the figure turns around and it's Robert Downey Jr.'s face. Oh my God. Now, why didn't they do that? You answered the question. You answered the question. They never would have been able to keep it secret. There's just no way they would have been able to keep that secret. And so Marvel decided to use it in a way to get big, massive pop, because it wasn't just in Hall H, it was all over the world. So instead of risking it leaking out at some point, take advantage, Comic-Con, Hall H, big, massive pop. Not to mention, I think Kevin Feige is probably smart enough to know that it's going to take some people a little bit of time to get used to this idea. And by announcing it at Comic-Con now, it gives everybody plenty of time to adjust the idea. So, but really, Dennis, I think the main reason they didn't do that is because, just like you said, there's no way they could have kept it secret. All right. Anish writes, I wanted RDJ back in the MCU, and I always wanted Doom to come into the MCU. Who would have thought those two things happen at the same time would disappoint me this much? Oh, well, I'm open to see what they do. Again, all I'd say to people who say they're disappointed by this is How'd it go all the other times they did Doctor Doom more traditionally? How'd that work out? Now, again, I'm not saying that doesn't mean they couldn't have done it again. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, in those moments where you feel disappointed by it, just look in the mirror and say, and acknowledge, they've done it this way several times before, and it's never worked. Not that it can't work in the future or could work now, but it never has worked. So maybe it is the absolute best thing that they're trying something different. And I think this has much better storytelling potential this way. I think it is much more storytelling potential, 100% more storytelling potential this way. It'll be neat to see how it works out. Let's see. Joe Leon writes, is Deadpool now in the discussion for top 5 best superhero film trilogies? Well, how many superhero film trilogies have there been? There have been the Dark Knight. There's been Captain America. There's been Thor. I guess you can go back to the old Christopher Reeve Superman, but that's not up there on the list. Yes, Deadpool is definitely in the conversation for the best superhero trilogies. I wouldn't say it's the top one, but it's definitely in the conversation for best superhero trilogies. All right. Okay, again, that's too spoilery. Okay, here we go. Joe Adonis T writes, hey, John, I should be buying a lotto ticket as my prediction of 210 million opening for Deadpool and Wolverine came so close, just off by $1,435,000. So maybe, just maybe, I'll win the 5-digit one. It was close. I mean, I got close. I said the upper limit was going to be 210. It actually ended up being 211, so I missed it. You said 210, missed it by a little. Guys, seriously, I think too many people are just kind of glassing over how huge this was. It beat the previous R-rated box office opening record by nearly $80 million. That's insane. An R-rated film is now the sixth biggest opening film in Hollywood history. That is crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. All right, next up. Monkey writes, since RDJ is Doom, you probably mean since Robert Downey Jr. is Doom, if they bring back Tom Holland, how do you think the relationship that Tony and Pete had will play into having to fight what is probably a multiversal look-alike Tony variant? I think that's one of the key things of this movie. Because you think about Rhodey, and you think about Dr. Banner, and you think about Peter Parker, these people who had these extremely close relationships with Tony Stark. And now the person they've got to fight is a version of that Tony Stark and has the face of the guy they loved. That has so much fucking potential if done right. And that's a huge if, but if done right, that has so much fucking potential. Seeing the conflict and the turmoil that Peter's going to have to deal with as he's trying to fight, or this guy, the face of the guy that he loved like a dad, is currently trying to murder him and trying to wipe him out of existence and trying to kill him and rip his head off his body. Like, oh my God, there's so much potential with that if done right. And that will be, of course, the big thing. All right. Joe Adonis T writes, hey, John, speaking of House of Asher, have you checked out those about to die on Peacock? I have not. The series explores another side of Rome, the dirty business of entertaining the masses, giving the mob what they want most, blood and sport. It's quite good, too. I'll be honest with you, even though Those About to Die looks like a show that's kind of right up my alley, at the same time, it kind of looks like a bastardization of Spartacus and Game of Thrones. Like, they even use the same Game of Thrones font in their title. Now, I've heard some good things about it, though, and I probably will give it a shot. I'm glad you're giving me the recommendation. All right. Let's see here. Okay, next up. We got Deadpool's Unicorn Plush writes, Do you think that they should have saved Aunt May's death to involve Doctor Doom? Nah. And thoughts on possibly retiring after Secret Wars. Thanks for inspiring my love of movies. No, I'm not still going to be doing this by the time Secret Wars comes out. I will probably do an out of theater reaction when Secret Wars comes out, but I'm definitely not still going to be doing this. I will be long retired by the time Secret Wars comes out. But no, they should not have saved. Number one, when they did Spider-Man No Way Home, they didn't know they were going to have Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom and do that, because that was years ago, right? So they didn't know. Secondly, if they saved Aunt May's death for Doctor Doom, while there is something tragic about somebody who looks just like our Tony Stark, Peter's practical father figure, killing Aunt May, while there's absolute drama there, 100%, it would mean that probably the most emotionally moving part of Spider-Man No Way Home wouldn't have been a part of the film. And I don't think Spider-Man No Way Home is as good if you don't have that scene in the movie. So would it have been cool and really effective if seeing a Tony Stark variant murdering Aunt May? Absolutely would have been huge. Absolutely. But the price tag of that means it couldn't have been in No Way Home, in which case No Way Home's not as good of a movie. So that's I don't think they should have done that. We'll read this. Ben G writes, "Sup crew, would you believe me if I told you I watched Deadpool and Wolverine for the second time, except the second time was on YouTube? I don't endorse it, but if you give me $1,000 for free, I'm taking it. Will this level of piracy kill its $1 billion chances? It's a great copy." Well, I mean, again, don't even get me going on the issue of piracy. People who pirate nearly ruin John Schnepp's life. Like people who pirate movies, you nearly bankrupted John Schnepp and you almost ruined his life. So I don't ever want to hear people talking about how piracy is a victimless crime and stuff like that. People who pirated The Death of Superman Lives nearly absolutely ruined John Schnepp. Like every once in a while you hear Rob and I talk about it. If it sounds like we have a tinge of anger in our voices, it's because he and I both know just how close the piracy of his movie nearly ruined his life. So I'll always have a very biased view about that, because piracy is not a victimless crime. You are stealing. I don't care how you try to form it, you're stealing. That being said, I understand the mentality that if I'm walking down a sidewalk and there's $100 bill on the sidewalk, I'm going to pick it up. I mean, I get it. I believe me, I do. I completely do. But there is no way this is not going to get taken down, right? There's no way it's not going to get taken down. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it got taken down moments after you started to see it. So every movie's going to have piracy. The bigger movies are going to have even a harder time with piracy, but I believe they're going to mitigate it as much as they can. And the one you were talking about is probably already taken down. At least that's my guess. My guess at any rate. All right. Last question of the day, because we've been going 2.5 hours. Live Long and Filthy writes, that's a great username, by the way. John, have you heard any whispers on if Borderlands is going to be any good? It's out in about a week, and I feel I haven't seen squat as far as the adverts think. You know what? I haven't heard a thing about it. Straight up, honestly, I have not heard a thing about how good or bad Borderlands is. I am a big Eli Roth fan. Cate Blanchett is one of the 3 greatest actresses of all time. Of all time. I really like Kevin Hart. I really like Jack Black. I really want to like this movie. I'd be lying though if I said I have a lot of hope for it. I don't think the trailers have been very good. It doesn't look all that interesting. The way they've marketed this film, they've made it look like a Walmart Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't know that the movie's going to feel that way, but that's what the marketing has made it feel that way, even if the movie doesn't. So I am going to go into Borderlands with my fingers crossed. I'm a big fan of Eli Roth. I want this to be great. I'd be lying to you if I said I had a lot of excitement though, because the trailers have not been good, right? The trailers have actually brought my anticipation and excitement level for the potential of this movie down instead of raising it up. So hopefully it's great, but as of right now, live long, I haven't heard anything about it. And all right, guys, that'll do it. My voice is almost gone for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you so much for your support. Hey, don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow for the next installment of the John Campea Show. Hopefully Jonathan Voico and Paris will be able to be back. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.